All right, welcome to the Mike White podcast. Today on the pod, I have EXOS Frisco Athlete Services Coordinator, Brandon Guilford, also former or fellow alumnus or alumni of Frisco Heritage High School. How's it going, Brandon? Oh, it froze up already. Here, I'll do the low data mode. I don't know if you caught all that, but can you hear me now, Brandon?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you're good. Yeah, you're good as long as it doesn't freeze up anymore. I turned it on the low data thing, so we can't see each other, but I can hear you fine.
Okay. All right, cool.
I see you're there. It says EXOS in the background. So are you at work today in this icy weather?
Yeah, I actually came in today really to get out the house so I could have some space to do this and not be distracted by my son and noise and all that kind of stuff like that. We're in the process of building a home right now. We actually closed this Friday. So
congrats.
So, thanks, man. Thanks. It's been a process for sure. But yeah, I just had to get out the house. I was like, I need some space to not be bothered by anybody. So I braved the winter ice storm and made my way over here. But the roads weren't too bad. When I was coming, it was raining, so it was kind of like warming the ground up a little bit. So it wasn't too bad. So we'll see what it's like when I leave.
That's awesome. This has got you maybe 1 week out of the year where Texas actually freezes over and everything shuts down. So glad to have you on. I saw on your website. So I was looking at EXOS and they're about us. They say the global leader in human performance. So I thought it's awesome to have you on the podcast because that's pretty much why I'm doing this podcast. I want to learn things, see what people are doing, and maybe it will help people in deciding what they want to do in careers or just how to make their life better.
Yeah, so for sure.
Just to start it out, what exactly does EXOS do, and what do you do there in Frisco?
Yeah, man. So I'm a sports trainer. This is a sports training facility. EXOS has been around for a long time, man. Ironically, I used to train here back in the day, back when we were in high school. We used to be called Athletes Performance Institute at that time, and yeah, that's essentially what we do. We train pro guys, college, amateur as well. We do all sports. I mean, we've trained bobsledders. I mean, you can pretty much name the sport. We've done it. Like I said, we've been around for a very long time. I think this company was started around in the 90s in California, and then we just continued to grow to where we are now. So, yeah, man, it's pretty simple. That's the bread and butter of what we do. We train athletes here. We have PTs here on site. We have a nutritionist that's on site as well. So we kind of just try and hit all factors of whatever performance looks like for these athletes. Because if you look at it from the highest degree of what they do in a professional setting, right, these are things that they have access to, whether it's from their team or just what they have access to because of what they do, right? They'll have nutrition, they'll have PT, and they'll have performance. So we just house all of that in one spot. We got 3 locations. I work at the Frisco location. We have one in Arizona. We have one in Florida as well. So those are our 3 sites. And then outside of that, we kind of have smaller sites that kind of are byproducts of what we do from the institute standpoint. So we call these locations, those 3 locations I said, we call those our institutes. And then we have kind of like byproducts of those in different places, whether that's in hospital settings and things of that nature. So, huge company. We have a huge network, huge reach. And yeah, man, I know I work here, but we're the best at what we do. I'm grateful to work here. It was, people always say, write your goals down like a whiteboard or on your mirror or something like that. It kind of was like that for me. Once I trained here, like I said, I kind of fell in love with the concept of the private training sector. And things of that nature, and just what I was able to see and the access I had and seeing the science behind movement and all that kind of stuff like that. And outside of, actually playing sports, once I finished my career at that, then, that was on my vision board, was to figure out a way to get to EXOS, and I made it happen. So I started here in September, and things have been going great ever since, man.
It's great to hear that you're hitting your groove. You're doing, I think every person I grew up with playing sports, they fall in love with it. And I wanted sports to be something the rest of my life. And the fact that you can do it as part of your work and, you're getting a new house there. You got your family.
Yeah.
Really happy for you. And I want to dig into the background now, if that's cool, how you grew up and all that stuff. Where are you from?
Man, I'm actually from Southern California, bro. So, and real quick before I get into that, because I realized I didn't even answer your question. So the second part of your question, I'm the athlete service coordinator here, like you said. So I kind of do two roles in one here. So I'm a performance consultant and athlete service coordinator. So the performance consultant part of my job is more of the sales part, right, where I'm going out and recruiting and getting athletes in, regardless of the level that they play. And then the athlete service coordinator part is basically, to sum it up in layman's terms, it's almost being like an athlete liaison. So I just make sure the athletes have everything they need when they get started with us. I communicate a lot with agents and things of that nature, depending on different seasons that we're in. Right now it's combine prep season. So I have the best athletes in the country right now that are all training at our facility that are getting ready for the NFL combine. So that always starts at the same time, January 1. We kick it off and we go until we go right up until we send them all to Indianapolis to get ready for the combine. And I won't bore you with too much of all the details of how we interwork within the dynamics of the combine and stuff. But yeah, so right now this is probably our busiest time of the year. Again, I have 50 athletes in here right now, and different needs of each athlete, and just making sure that their experience while they're here is what it needs to be. So it's a lot of relationship building, communicating, and getting schedules to people, talking with media. It's just a lot of different things that go under the umbrella of the athlete service coordinator. So I got my hands on everything within the facility and things of that nature. So it's definitely fun. Can be exhausting sometimes, but it's great though. So I wanted to touch on that because I totally spaced on that second part of the question. So sorry about that.
No, yeah. And you're there in Frisco. So gosh, that's like a sports hub, just the cream of the crop. And you're talking about the combine. You guys on your website say you've had 206 first round picks throughout the years and over 1,000 athletes drafted. So you guys are working with some of the best of the best. That's got to be pretty cool. Yeah,
it's legit, man. If anybody's like a sports buff out there and like hearing about that kind of stuff, man, I can go down a whole list of the best that have come through here and trained here. And that was always kind of crazy to me when I first started here, is like just having access to that. It's just kind of crazy, whether it's, people's contact information and just seeing these people up close and personal and getting to know them and things of that nature. Like, it's definitely, it can be awestruck sometimes, but nah, man, these people are there. They're just like any regular human beings. They just are extremely gifted in the sport that they play. So, it's all fun stuff for sure.
Well, it definitely tells a lot when, I don't know if they're at the Frisco location, but two of the people that are on, that you guys have on the website are DK Metcalf and Saquon Barkley. And I don't know if there's a person in better shape than DK Metcalf. And then Saquon's thighs are just either big tree trunks. They're insane.
Yeah, Saquon, they call him. For sure, man. Yeah, we got some guys, man. This class that we have in right now, they're special, man. So I'm excited to see what they do in Indianapolis. They're working hard. Really good kids, man. So it's exciting, man, to watch them go through this journey while they're with us, man. We work them hard, but I mean, like you said, sales on our website, things of that nature, we get results. So that's why we get them coming back. So.
Oh yeah, that's super rewarding too, because you guys are adding value to them as well. It's a win-win. So it's kind of part of the team, and I would be great to have all those high caliber athletes, just seeing them every day going to work. That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. But yeah, so we can get back to your question about where I'm from. So yeah, I'm from Southern California, man. So I'm from a city called Rialto. If anybody is familiar with that locale, San Bernardino, Riverside, all that whole little like hub right there. So I come from Rialto. I was born there, lived there until I was, I think, 13 years old. And then we transitioned our way out here to Texas. My family, so my mom, my dad, my brother, my older brother, came out here in 2008. And yeah, I've been here ever since. I had a small stint in Iowa for a couple of years, but I'm sure we'll get into that at some point, so I won't get ahead of myself. But yeah, born and raised in Southern California, man. That's where it all started.
Yeah. So do you remember the first time you started playing baseball? And I think of you as a baseball player, but did you play other sports as well? Because you're a really good athlete. So I bet if you played
Yeah.
football, you would be a pretty good football player too.
Yeah. So I did, bro. I played. My life was pretty sports centric. That's really all I know. I tease people and I tell them all the time. When I was growing up, I knew two things. I knew church and I knew sports. That literally was my life consisted of. So I played baseball, basketball, and football pretty much year round up until really I got to high school. So I excelled pretty much in all of them. What I loved the most, ironically, was football. I loved football more than I liked baseball early on. And basketball is probably the last on it. Probably I wasn't as gifted in it, but I mean I was still a good athlete, so it always got me by at a young age. But yeah, I started playing baseball when I was 5 years old. I don't remember too much about what that time was like. I remember the team I played for. I played for the Yankees. So I have a couple of pictures of that back in the day. But my uncle was the one that actually got me into playing baseball. My mom's brother, her youngest brother, and he played baseball growing up, and he just was a fan of it. He pretty much got into all the sports. Him along with my dad, and yeah, it was just one of those deals that I probably didn't realize I was really good at it until maybe middle schoolish, going into high school, where I really was okay. Like I'm really good at this sport. Up until that point, I was just out there having fun with my friends. Man, I played in the league in our city, man. So all the kids that I went to school with, elementary school and things of that nature, we all played in the same league. So it was just fun being able to grow up and play with those guys, growing up through all those earlier years.
Yeah. So playing in the league is now they have all these travel ball leagues and people are paying just ridiculous amounts of money to go travel around. And do you have any thoughts on that or how beneficial that is and at what level?
Man, travel ball, man, baseball is funny. So, excuse me, I didn't really play travel baseball until I moved to Texas. And even when I came out here, I was in 8th grade. I moved out here the second semester of my 8th grade year. So finished up out here and then started high school here. So probably didn't really officially play travel ball until my freshman year of high school. And even the team I was on was, not one of those. Like, it wasn't like a D-Bat or a Dallas Patriots. None of those organizations I played for. So I was kind of green in the face to it. I didn't really know what to expect. I heard things about it. I'm 28 years old, so by the time travel ball was kind of starting to. It was present, but it wasn't as big as it is today. I think it was still one of those deals where it was like, at least where I came from in California, city ball was still it. You just played, with your neighborhood friends and things of that nature. You guys play in the same league, and that was big enough for us. We didn't really think about travel ball, nor could we honestly afford it at that time. So that wasn't a deal that ever really crossed my mind. And but to answer your question, man, I think it's good. It definitely has its perks. I will not lie. There's a lot of expertise that are affiliated with these organizations, and they get a lot of exposure and things of that nature. I won't shy away from the fact that it's very expensive. I think that that could probably be a little more cheap. But I mean, I don't know. I don't want to count people's pockets like that. But I think it's one of those deals, man, where if you can do it, great, utilize it for its resources, but don't feel like you're obligated to do it. I can only speak about my experience, and when I came up playing, I didn't have it. I didn't do too much of it, so I don't feel that it's necessary to get where you're trying to be. But it's 2023. That might be necessary now. But I know when I was coming up, I didn't look at travel ball as something that was necessary, or, I felt pressured by my peers to necessarily play on this team or the gold team or whatever. Like I didn't really care, man. Because it didn't produce really much of anything for me outside of what I was already doing from, high school ball and things of that nature.
Yeah, my thoughts on that is there's definitely a different caliber of play when you go into the travel ball versus I did like the city little league for the longest time through like middle school, and you definitely face some really good pitchers at travel ball. But at that age, I think most of your money made is on the tee, on the practice field, and not so much game time. And of course, getting in.
I definitely agree with that, man. I think at that young age, man, develop the tools that you need to be elite in whatever sport that it is, man. Sometimes getting on these travel ball teams, you kind of bypass that, and it's just about playing games. And although game experience is great, you know, it's a good barometer to see, you know, where your progress is and things of that nature. It still is one of those deals that, to your point, right, you might get a little bit more bang for your buck if you just fine tune your skills and your skill set during that time, or maybe just using that organization specifically for that, just doing lessons and things of that nature. That might be more worth it than necessarily like spending all that you have to be on this team, to travel, and, you know, half the expenses is travel, because they go all over the world. So that's like really why it costs so much money. So, yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with you with that, man. I think that the fundamentals, man, they're always going to come first, and that's always going to carry you further than, you know, really anything else when it comes to that travel ball stuff, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. Do you remember if your training mindset shifted at all when you were growing up, when you're just out there playing with your friends, to, I want to get really good at this game and I'm going to train hard?
Man, I played a lot outside when I was a kid. I was always outside, and that was kind of the benefit of having an older brother. My older brother's 3 years older than me, and he played the same sports I did: baseball, basketball, football. So I did everything that he did. And it was so much that we would do outside athletically that at that age, you don't even realize you're like building the foundations of becoming a better athlete. And I just remember, like, specifically, like, certain vivid memories I have of my parents didn't let us play with real balls, obviously, in the neighborhood. We want to break windows and things of that nature. So they would buy us tennis balls, and that's how we would play baseball, with tennis balls on the side of our house. And me and my brother would just play against each other. He would pitch to me, I would hit, vice versa. And obviously, him being older than me, stronger than me, he would just throw as hard as he possibly could and stuff like that. And eventually, obviously, I got better. I started being able to hit it and vice versa and things of that nature. But if I wasn't playing with him, I would do things like our garage. We had like a wooden garage in the front of my house, and I would just throw the tennis ball. We had like a little handle almost that you would lift up from the exterior of the garage if you had to manually lift it up. And I would just like throw the tennis ball and try and hit that spot as many times as I possibly could. And I would act like I was pitching, and I would try and hit like different spots, and just like literally just having fun, not even thinking at that time of like, oh, I'm trying to do this because I want to be a professional pitcher or anything like that. And I would do the same thing with fielding wise. I would just throw the tennis ball against the garage and field it like I was doing that all day long, man. Like I did that. I just had fun doing it. And it kind of translated, you know, as I continued to get older, and probably not until, I don't know, man, probably till when I moved out here was when I really started to focus in and lock in and say, okay, I'm training to get better at this sport because I see a future in this sport. And that wouldn't have been, honestly, probably the only reason I saw that was the exposure I had to one of my best friends at the time. His dad played professional baseball. His name is Torrey Hunter. So I met him. He actually, ironically, was one of the first people I met when I moved to Texas. It was kind of crazy how that situation worked out. So shortly after moving out here, my dad took me to a batting cage because I just wanted to get some swings in and stuff like that. We were in Plano and happened to be at one where his travel ball team was there at the time having practice, and was taking some swings in the cage, and their coach came and spoke to my dad, said, hey, is he playing on the team? My dad's like, no, we just moved here, all that kind of stuff like that. So they invited me to come to one of their practices. We missed the entire practice that weekend because we couldn't find the field, right? So we show up like really late, like the practice is over. We show up, and Tori's there, and they were sitting there talking. Practice was over, and I just remember coming up over there, and they were like, oh, this was the guy we invited out. And Tori's is a really nice guy, man, very genuine, very, very down to earth. He's a nice gentleman, and he just invited me to come to his house before he left for spring training to get some swings in with him. And it honestly wasn't until I showed up and saw like the preparation and had somebody teach me like everything from where my feet were to where my hands were, just really breaking down my swing all the way to the bare minimum. That was when I was like, okay, like this is what my training has to look like if I want to get to that level. So if it honestly wouldn't have been for that first experience that I had with them, it maybe would have taken longer for me to really like know, okay, these are steps I have to go through and procedure I have to go through to get to the next level. Because up to that point, man, I was just playing just to have fun.
That's insane. Because Torrey Hunter, growing up, I idolized him. Like, there's no person I'd rather watch play outfield than Torrey Hunter. Just always on Sports Center top 10, and it's great to hear about that. He's a really good guy too, and I know he would come out to some of the Prosper games when we play Prosper and see him in the stands, and it's good to hear. He's a good person too. Yeah, awesome, man. I owe that guy everything, man. He did. That family, they've done so much for me, bro. Like, it's crazy, man. They were. I look at them as an extension of my parents, because that's exactly how they treated me for a long time. And yeah, they just supported me in a lot of ways where, you know, I needed it, my family needed it. So I owe them everything, bro. My only memory playing Prosper is I got trucked by Torrey's brother, because Torrey Jr. and then it's Money Hunter, right? Is his name? Yeah. And it was a pass. I was playing first, and the ball got by me on a pickoff attempt, and I look at the ball, and all of a sudden I'm on the ground because he just trucked me. That's a big man. I forgot about that. Yeah, those were some good times, man. I definitely appreciated those moments getting to compete against them. You know, Junior is my best friend, so that was one of those deals where it always brings a little something different out of you when you get to play your friend. So I remember like just trying to do so much every time we played Prosper. They weren't in our district, but every now and again we would have to play them like an exhibition game or a tournament. And I remember just like being like, man, I got to hit like 2 bombs and go like 6 for 6. Man, I want people to know like, yeah, I'm better than him or whatever the case may be. So it was fun. It was fun getting to play against Torrey for sure, man. I love those moments. Yeah. So Torrey showed you a lot about, you know, training, hitting, all that stuff. When did weights come into play for going in the gym, and how do you think that's important to start early, or is that an important part of training? Yes. I think it's definitely necessary. If you can do it, my I guess the way I look at it always is, my approach would be, you have to be able to have the basic fundamental movement patterns down before I would trust any athlete to load a bar up and do any type of movement with that on a weight room floor. In my experience, what I've seen is there are a lot of young athletes that are doing it and they just don't move their bodies well. And it's not a matter of, can you muscle it out and gut it out and do this rep? Yes, absolutely, because it's almost like a fight or flight thing. You know, if I put something heavy on you, you're going to figure out a way to get it off you. But that's not the goal of weight training and weightlifting. It's supposed to be purposeful. There's supposed to be intent behind each movement, each rep. So if you can't execute that flawlessly or as close to flawlessly as possible, especially at that young age, I would say stay off of it. There's plenty of body movements. There's plenty of exercises that you can do to learn how to put your body in proper alignment and to keep your body safe and avoid injury and overuse and all those different types of things like that. So, you know, my advice would be don't rush into it. There's no need to. I know that's hard to say nowadays, or hard to hear rather, considering that it seems like everybody does it. Every athlete is doing some type of training, whether that's with the barbell or anything like that, speed, agility, whatever. But when you're young, man, I think the purpose should always be to just learn how to move effectively and properly and put yourself in good positioning. And then from that point, you can kind of graduate on to actually moving the bar, because then it becomes a little more natural for you.
And then it's just a matter of you just getting stronger and more comfortable with the movement, and not we have to go to the base level with you on how you need to move this bar and why your arm is doing this. You're like, just all the nuances of performance and body movement. We don't want to have to do that while you're doing time and attention. That starts to defeat the purpose of it.
And at that age, a lot of kids are just looking at, oh, well, my buddy's putting 2 plates on there, so I need to figure out how to put 2 plates on there myself, not caring about form. And I could see how that's really dangerous.
Yeah, very, very, man. It's one of when I was coaching, man, that was the one thing I hated the most was the ego of these kids at such a young age to just like, some of it is applaudable. For the most part, it's just one of those deals where, trying to get them to understand that I'm not saying that you're a poor athlete. I'm just saying that physically, you're just not ready to do these movements yet. That may not even mean, I'm not even saying that you're weak. You could be strong as an ox, but if you're not doing it right, you're just not doing it right. So you definitely fight that with the youth nowadays, because they're ready to go, man. And it's applaudable for that. I applaud the effort and how they want to get after it, but you kind of got to save them from themselves for sure.
Yeah, and that's one of the greatest benefits of coaches is they can be the brakes to the athletes that just want to get after it all the time and don't know when to stop.
Absolutely.
So growing up, who were some of your sports idols that you looked up to and kind of aspired to be? Or
man, I guess I'll try and go sport for sport if I can remember them like that. So football, I had a lot of favorite players in football, man. I have too many to probably even start the list out. I was a big Rams fan when I was a kid. So I loved watching Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, all those guys, man. I was a big Rams fan. Don't ask me how, all the way in Southern California. I don't know how that became a thing, but
well, they used to be the LA Rams way back then.
Yeah, exactly. They used to be LA Rams, yeah, now they're back. So that's something. But my all-time favorite football player probably still to this day is Reggie Bush. And like Reggie Bush is still to this day, I will argue with anybody, was especially in college, was the greatest college football player I have ever laid eyes on. The dude was just electric. Like every time he touched the ball, it did not matter where he was on the field, who was around him. You literally felt like he might score. Like he was just that guy like that. So huge fan of Reggie Bush. Baseball, I was a huge Barry Bonds fan. Sorry to the baseball aficionados that, don't want him in the Hall of Fame or something like that. I'm not trying to offend the game, but that guy was special, man. Regards to the controversy that surrounded him a little bit, I was a huge Barry Bonds fan. Kind of my motto is kind of the same. I'm trying to pick out the ones that I really, really liked watching because I had so many favorite players in so many different sports. Basketball, being on the West Coast, man, I was a huge Kobe Bryant fan. Those are probably in those 3 dominant sports, man. Those were the ones I idolized and looked up to. But I think it was Sports Illustrated. They had like the kids edition or whatever that they would send out as a subscriber to it, and they always had like the action shots of like different athletes, and I used to pin those all over my wall. So I had all different types of athletes all over my wall of every sport, because I would just rip the page out and then just thumbtack it to my wall all over the place. So, man, there's a lot of great athletes out there that I really like to watch and kind of emulate my game after. And me and my brother would play outside. We'll be like, you're so-and-so and I'm so-and-so. And we would try and like emulate everything from their batting stance to things that we knew about them and stuff like that. So, yeah, man, that's probably my top 3 though, for sure.
Kobe's a good pick. Gosh, his just competitiveness is unmatched, and you could tell he wanted to be the best basketball player and just worked his ass off. So those are good picks.
Yeah. The thing about Kobe is like, even as a young kid, man, I didn't even recognize those parts of his game yet. I wasn't thinking about it mentally. You're just looking at him like, oh man, he jumps high, he scores a lot of points, or they win a lot or something like that. So he kind of aged like wine for me. The older I got, I was able to really appreciate different dynamics of his game. And like you say, like the mental approach of how he went about his business, then that's where you can really like gleam and emulate your game, or just anything you do professionally or whatever the case may be. It was a lot of lessons that you could really learn from Kobe, man. So rest in peace to him, man.
Oh yeah, that's I mean, just absolutely terrible what happened, but
yeah,
it did. I thought everyone, paying their respects and showing the videos, and I didn't realize really his philosophy until those last couple of years about how he approached the game, and just seeing some YouTube videos. And like you said, you can take that approach that he did towards basketball and anything that you care about, have that same approach. And I think you'd be pretty successful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now you're playing high school baseball. You're really good. Definitely the best player in our team. And you want to go play the next level. How did that whole process go of finding what school you wanted to play at? And what do you have any recommendations for if someone's in those shoes right now?
Yeah, man. My story was, I would say probably non-traditional, just in the sense of when I was at Heritage, bro, let me back up. I started my freshman year with McKinney Boyd. I don't even know if you knew that. So my freshman year, I was at McKinney Boyd. And honestly, when I was there, we had been in Texas maybe a solid year, if that. And I was starting high school out there. My brother, like I said, was older than me, so he was already at Boyd. And I've always carried a older spirit. So a lot of my, I guess I can call them friends. A lot of my friends were older than me because I spent so much time around my brother. I was always around his friends, right? So I just always just had an older demeanor to me. So when I got to McKinney Boyd, the same thing kind of applied. All of my friends ended up being all of my brother's friends. The downfall for me was I got unfocused very quickly when I got to high school. And maybe it was a situation where I still was trying to adjust and being in this new state and trying to find your belongings and things of that nature. So my freshman year, Boyd was pretty rough, man. I started to show tendencies and traits of myself that, A, I'm not proud of, and B, that just weren't me. They weren't my character. I was just kind of acting out a little bit. So things from my grades weren't very up to par. I was playing basketball there. I didn't play football, but I was playing baseball and basketball there. And obviously baseball being a spring sport, I had some time until we got to that point. And started with basketball. That was my first time ever being eligible because of my grades. Just wasn't handling things in the classroom. Skipping practice sometimes, just for no real reason at all. It wasn't I skipped it to do anything that may have been better to me at that time. I just wouldn't do it sometimes. And just things that are just really just not my character I was doing. And I remember once basketball season ended, and I was like, okay, clearly I don't want to play that bad because I wouldn't act this way. So kind of had my sights set on playing baseball, and kind of followed the same suit once baseball season started. Tried out, knew I would make the team, but I tried out for the team, made the team. And, it was one of those deals again where just not focused enough the way I should have been. And made it through the season. Everything went well, but it just could have been a way better experience for myself if I would have been a little bit more focused during that time. And, kudos to my dad, because I think he kind of started to sense that I was kind of going left and just making decisions that weren't me. And that's when he pulled me and transferred me to Heritage. I don't know how he found out about Heritage. But yeah, I just remember one day he told me you're going to transfer to the school. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to Frisco ISD. Now I know nobody from Frisco. I only know McKinney folk. I actually showed up. So I was first graduating class there. Did you graduate in 2012? You did, right?
I'm a year after you, 2013.
Okay. So the class of 2012, we were the first graduating class there. So we started out as sophomores there. Then they pulled from all the different schools, from Liberty, Wakeland, everywhere to compile our student body. And my first day, I was in on crutches. My very first day at Heritage, I was on crutches. I had just had surgery on my knee, my very first surgery. That summer, I had tore my meniscus playing travel ball. It was an issue that I was having for a while as far as pain goes. And I kept complaining to my parents, after every game, man, my knee hurts, don't feel right. It would be swollen. We lived in apartments at that time, and our apartments had stairs inside. And sometimes I couldn't even get up the stairs and vice versa and stuff like that. But My parents, man, are like, they were just one of those people that my arm had to be hanging off for them to take me to the doctor. So it was one of those deals where eventually they were like, he's complaining enough. They took me, found out that my meniscus was torn, had the surgery that summer. But I was still recovering. So I came in first day on crutches. And again, like I said, I'm in Frisco ISD. I don't know anybody. So I'm back at square one trying to, find friends and all that kind of stuff like that. And I couldn't even necessarily rely on like naturally making friends from a athletic perspective because I couldn't do anything. I was rehabbing. So I didn't play football there that year, at least played baseball. So we were doing the baseball class and things of that nature. And I just remember just being there and having to like, without being boastful about it, almost kind of like letting people know, like, guys, I am good at baseball. Like, I'm not just out here just for, a class period. Like, I can really play, but I couldn't necessarily show that. But once I was able to get cleared and start moving and doing things like that, and then that just all kind of took care of itself. So,
did you know you were going?
What'd you say?
Sorry to cut you off. I was going to ask you, did you know you were going down a bad path when you were at McKinney, and then did that, go into Heritage?
Yeah, I did. I did. I'm one of those people, man, like, at least I can speak during that time. Like, I would be doing things and it would be so uncomfortable doing things. I think there's two types of people, right? You got some people that may not make the best decisions and like they're like fully comfortable in making those poor decisions. I was opposite. I was making those decisions and I still felt uncomfortable because, again, that just wasn't my character. So I knew it, but yeah, I don't think I was. I don't even know the word. I just wasn't responding to it enough. Nothing was necessarily getting to me at that time. And I don't know why. Yeah, it was a weird time for me, man. It really was. But yeah, man, I mean, we get the Heritage, man. We play a JV schedule because we didn't have enough students to play a varsity schedule and all that kind of stuff like that. So my first year I played a JV schedule and, yeah, things went well, on the playing field for sure. Definitely kind of separated myself from other guys on the team from athletic perspective early, and I had some early success for sure. But while I was there, all the coaches, I feel like they start to see like that I was really talented and I was very athletic. So then I started getting the pulls from the other coaches, right? Do you want to run track? Do you want to, play football, this, that, and the other? So I grew up playing football. And side note, funny fact, when I started playing football when I was, I think, like 8 or 9 years old, I was offensive lineman. So I started out as a lineman. I used to be a little chunky kid back in the day. So, and I used to be slow, bro. Like I was big and I used to be slow.
Did a 180.
You say what?
You did a complete 180.
Yeah, man. Like I didn't run well. I used to run on my heels and stuff like that. And it's just funny because like my dad, he played college football and stuff like that. And my brother's fast. My dad was fast. He played cornerback and stuff. That's kind of like what my dad was known for in California, was being like super fast and stuff like that. And then like I come around, I'm like all slow and stuff like that. But then I don't think he was comfortable with that because after a while he started to work with me. I guess his ego got in the way. He was, I can't have my kid being slow out here. So he started to really work with me on running and stuff like that. And then one day it just clicked. I just got fast. I don't know how I just got fast. But so anyway, to fast forward back to high school, yeah, that's kind of how it happened, man. Coaches started talking, wanted me to do different things, and like I said, I grew up playing football. I love football. At that time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I really wasn't even thinking about college ball at all, to be honest with you, bro. Like I was just in that mode of just trying to compete, man. My motive about life, man, is I'm a competitor. I love to compete. And that's what brought me joy in high school, which is being able to kind of show my dominance from a competitive standpoint and the things that I did. So actually, I would say this, and this is kind of go just further a deeper dive into your question. The turning point for me, bro, was yeah, what's my sophomore year? Yeah, it would have been our sophomore year. Yeah, our sophomore year of high school baseball. I want to say maybe after the season ended, maybe. I can't even remember the time frame. Made a really, really poor choice. Really, really, really poor choice. That, by the grace of God, didn't get to the extent of what it could have gotten to. Just so happened I made a really, really poor choice and got into trouble at school. My first time, like, having, like, ISS and all that kind of stuff, like, that type of magnitude of trouble. Like, never was that kid. But this time, I really stepped into it bad. And we had I don't know if you remember the old AD and old football coach we used to have, Coach Jackson, Ken Jackson.
Yep, from Sweetwater.
Yep, exactly, right. So he was AD at that time, and I remember we had just got in trouble. I just got caught in the principal's office, all that kind of stuff, just kind of waiting to see, like, what my punishment was going to be and this, that, and the other. And I was sitting in the locker room, and I heard Coach Jackson. You remember Coach Jackson, big, boisterous guy, right?
Yeah.
I hear him, like, all the way down the hall coming, like, just screaming, like, living, right? Rightfully so. Comes in, lays into it. Gives it to us, man. I mean, just really, really gave it to us. And, again, rightfully so and all that, but I remember thinking in my head, like, wow, like, I don't even know if I'm going to, like, this man is even going to allow me to play sports at this school anymore. Like, it's, like, that bad, right? And, went home, had my punishment. I had, like, a week of ISS and, like, all that kind of stuff like that, and had to kind of work my way back into, like, the fold of, like, the good graces of my team and, like, all these different things like that. And it was that moment where I was like, okay, Brandon, like, you're really good at what you do from an athletic standpoint. Like, why do you keep, like, getting in your own way with things that just aren't you? Like, you're just making really poor choices for no good reason at all. Like, you're going to squander your future. You're going to, have your character attached to things that you don't want them attached to and things of that nature. And honestly, salute Coach Jackson, because probably if it wasn't for how he kind of approached that situation and made me feel in that moment, I don't know if I would have grasped, a hold of myself and been able to say, okay, like, you need to course correct. And from that point on, I kind of felt like I had to prove myself to everybody from that point forward at the school, from the faculty to the teachers to the student body to my teammates to all that kind of stuff like that. It almost, like, took my focus to another level. And that's where I was like, okay, like, I am going to be so locked in and focused on showing people that, like, not only am I a good athlete, but I'm a really good friend. I'm a really good student. I just, all those things I just tried to, like, really just touch up and make sure that when I left a positive mark on my experience during that time. So it's a long-winded answer. I'll continue to answer the rest of your question, but I want to stop there because I know I added some new details.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because, I mean, that it's the punishment I thought was extreme. I don't know if you're talking about, was it you and was a bunch of other people involved in this?
Yep.
Because I think, it's really silly. I mean, it's wrong. It was silly, but
right.
The punishment, it kind of sucked because all our best players were gone for a few games. But if that's all that the cost was, and for you and hopefully some of the other guys have that same outlook, like, gosh, it's well worth it. Like, and it's great at that young age, a lot of guys are doing immature things, and the fact that you took that from that shows a lot.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was definitely a humbling experience, man. But yeah, man. So that's kind of how things went early on in my high school career, as far as really coming to realization of, like, I can do this at the next level. So, after my sophomore season of baseball, I started to get the itch to play football again. And I think that kind of came from, my peers. Like, again, everybody knew that I was a good athlete. And, like, I think it was one of those deals where, like, I could feel, like, everybody saying, like, okay, we feel like you can do more than just play baseball. And I knew I could too as well, but I was kind of just, like, holding out. I'm like, I'm still coming off kind of my knee procedure and stuff like that, trying to feel like myself again. And I went out for 707. They had 707 somewhere. I want to say it was like in Princeton or something like that. We went to go play at, and the coaches have been begging me, like, just, hey, you want to just come out here and just try it out, see what's going on? Because I think what would happen, if you remember Ely, he would. I think something happened where he needed somebody to catch for him or something like that back when he was playing quarterback at that time.
Yep.
And I don't know how it ended up happening. I was out there catching passes for him. So, again, by just doing that, people start to raise their eyebrows like, oh, he can catch a little bit, this, that, and the other. And so then more of that, peer pressure started coming around. Like, hey, you should come out, for a workout one day and stuff like that. And anyway, I go to this 707 game that they had, and I was playing receiver and, made a couple plays. Again, people were kind of like, oh, like he can kind of play a little bit. And then went to like a 7-on-7 tournament, I think, that we ended up having later. And I was out there in like my baseball gloves. Like I didn't have no gloves. I didn't have nothing. I was doing my thing on the football field and stuff. And then I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I think I want to get into this. And it goes back to kind of the story I was telling with like Coach Jackson, because I almost feel like I almost owed that to him in an odd way. I feel like I just wanted to help him. I just wanted to show him again. Like I was like, he's not my baseball coach, but I feel like if I play football, like he'll be able to see like the kind of kid I really am and like my character and all that stuff like that. So I wanted to display that to him because I truly respected that guy. So I ended up doing that. Went out there for 2 days, or went through summer workouts and told him I was going to play, and got out there to 2 days, and that's where my football career started to take off again. And started doing my thing there. So I played running back that year. It was my first time ever playing running back. Never played running back. They just want the ball in my hands all the time. So like they were trying to beat me up and have me play running back. So I did that year. Obviously, that was a tough year for us. We got our teeth kicked in pretty much every single game. But it was fun though, man. It was one of those moments where like going through the adversity of losing the way that we lost that year, it just made me mad, man. It just made me angry as a competitor.
It was, like, 0-13, right?
You said what?
0-13?
Yeah, we didn't win one game, man. One game. And, I just remember just feeling like I was embarrassed, man. I'm like, I know I'm a good athlete. Like, I can only contribute so much, but, like, I refuse for this next season to go the way it looks, and just to kind of just like change the narrative around Heritage. I didn't really want to feed into that. Oh, they're a new school, so they're not very good at anything. I'm like, nah, I wasn't going to go down that route. So I took that personal, man, and I took that back into the baseball field, all that kind of stuff, man. I took that season with a chip on my shoulder for sure. So we go into baseball season, and that's when, again, still having success early on, and I don't know if you remember this game. We had to play Coach Pearl's. His brother coached at Mesquite. Do you remember that?
Yes. Mesquite. Was it Petite? Or Mesquite High?
Yep. I think it was Petite. So, can't remember if it's older brother, younger brother. Not important. But, we had to go play them. And we played them at the Rough Rider Stadium. And they had a catcher on their team that was projected to go pretty high. I think like top 10 round or something like that or whatever. Pretty good ball player. And we played them that night, and I remember just having a really good game. Had a couple huge hits, made some plays in the field. And, again, still just playing, man, not even thinking about, okay, like what school is going to see me, all that, like none of that. I always went into games like that where if I knew somebody had like a really good player, I'm like, I'm outplaying him. Like whatever I got to do, I got to figure out a way to outplay him. And that was my mentality when I went into that game. And sure enough, I had a really good game. And we came back to school that Monday, and Pearl had some mail for me. And it was from the Texas Rangers. And that's right there. That moment was kind of where things took off for me as far as recruiting goes and all that kind of stuff like that. And my name really kind of got out there. So that was when I got my invite to Area Code. And Area Code is invite only. You have to be invited by a professional scout, so they have to see you, and then the team that they represent will send you an invite, so on and so forth. So, happened to be the Texas Rangers that reached out to me, invited me to this Area Code. I didn't know anything about Area Code. baseball for me, man, to kind of back up real quick. At that time, like, all I knew was that I was good at baseball. That was it. But I didn't have like a true investment into the sport like that yet. Like, as far as like, it was all that I watched. It was all that I consumed. It was like I knew all these different events. And it's like I didn't know any of that kind of stuff, man. So when I got this mail, I was like, I don't know what area code is or whatever, but it got the Texas Rangers logo on it. So it must be something something pretty big. I'm like, man, does it mean I might get drafted? Like, what does this mean? Like, I don't know. So did some research on it and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this is a good opportunity for me. And ironically, that's what led me to EXOS. I was trying to, or Athletes Performance at the time. So I was trying to prep myself for it. I knew I was got to run like a 60 and all that kind of stuff like that. So through the Hunters and their recommendation, because Tori used to train here, he set something up, got me in contact with them, and I was able to train here for a couple months as I prepped for my tryout at area code, and it was in Houston, and it was going to be in the summertime. So that junior season, have a really good junior season, and I have my eyes set on obviously getting out there to area code and performing well, doing all that kind of stuff like that. So once I got there, man, that's when I got that mail, that's when everything kind of took off from me from a baseball perspective. Right?
That's kind of crazy. You kept that on the down low. I had no idea you were getting mail from the Texas Rangers.
Yeah,
you're just doing all this in silence.
Some of the guys knew, some of our teammates, and they at the time, man, we're young, and it was, I didn't know what to make of it, right? I feel like some of our teammates were like acting like I was about to get drafted or something like that. I was like, guys, this doesn't mean any of that kind of stuff like that. It's just, I can't explain it, but I have it. So I'm going to go and figure out what's going on with this opportunity and kind of go from it from that standpoint. But I didn't ever want, the team to feel like I felt like I was better than anybody or anything like that. Like, I want to go out there and just play hard and try and get us wins, but I didn't want, anybody to feel like I was sort of flexing on them for, opportunities that were coming my way. So.
No, you let the play speak for itself, and that was pretty good. I remember even practicing, I would go up to the Heritage Field, like on the weekend sometimes, and go hit. And I remember one day you were there. I forgot who was throwing your batting practice, but you were just hitting just a ton of balls over the wall, and just one after the other. It's like, holy cow, this guy's insane. So,
yeah, man, go ahead.
Do you, when you get that letter and you realize, hey, there's some promise here in baseball, do you go back and play football, or are you worried about getting injured or anything like that?
I was, but I had got my football itch back, man. So and I had something to prove, man. It was one of those things, like I said, the previous season went so poorly for us as a team that, like I said, I took that personally. So I was like, we definitely got to right these wrongs, man. And I didn't want it to look like I was quitting because we had such a bad season. That's probably more than what it was, man. I didn't want it to look like, oh, he went out there, they played poorly, and now he quit. Like, I didn't want that. I was like, I'm going to see it through with these guys. Obviously, you build a bond with your teammates and those relationships and stuff like that. And we went through a change, too, within our the structure of the athletic program. Coach Jackson leaves. That was hard on me. I remember when he told us the news. I'll never forget. He told us the news in the field house that he was leaving, and nobody knew. I'm sure like the coaches knew, but obviously the athletes didn't know and stuff. And I went home that day and I bawled my eyes out to my mom, man. Like, as soon as I think about it, sometimes I'm like, man, why was I so hurt that this man left? And no disrespect to him like that. I don't mean it that way. It just was like, man, like I cried, man. I cried like a baby when I got home. Like, I walked through the door, mom was like, something's wrong with you. And like, immediately I just start bawling, bro. Like, but again, I think it all went back to like just knowing the impact that man made on my life to give me a second chance, to be able to make those things happen. I think that's why his departure hit me the way that it did. So again, that further goes to the point of like, I was like, man, I'm playing football this next season. And I want to make him proud. I want to make our other coaching staff proud. I want to make the school proud. And yeah, the next season went way better, man. I remember coming in 2-a-days, man. Like, I was like a bat out of hell, bro. Like, my tolerance was low for like a lot of laughing and joking, man. Like, I was serious, man. I wanted to show, everybody, man, that we could play, or at least I could play. I tell them that much. So had a great season, man. I played really well. I had the opportunities to play football in college based off of what I was doing the last couple of years while I was there. And a lot of our teammates asked me a lot, like, are you going to play football? Are you going to play baseball? And by that time, once I got to my senior year, I had just finished up area code. So the way, I don't know if you know about the structure of area code, to kind of back up real quick. So you go out there, like I said, it was at Baseball of America in Houston. So it's a big baseball complex, and every single pro team is there. Their representation is there, and then probably every single college that you could think of is there as well. So kind of the way it was kind of structured was all the field events that we did, it would be like, so if you was running your 60, all the way up to the finish line was just on each side was pretty much every single MLB scout that was there to write down your time and stuff like that. They were on the field. All the college programs were in the stands watching you. So that was crazy in itself to just kind of have like all eyes on you in that sense, in that regard. And once I got there, I was like, okay, like, this is a real deal. Like, there's some really good ball players out here and stuff like that. So you'll run your 60 to test our arm strength. I was an infielder, so it was like deep in a hole in the third, across the diamond the first. We would throw, and they'll clock you for that, and then we would take a couple swings. I think maybe like 12 swings you would get or something like that. So that was the first time I ever saw like really talented like kids my age that can match me or were more better, or not more better, that's bad grammar, a lot better than me. I mean, there was some guys in there, like if we got 12 swings, they hit 8 out. Like just stuff like that. Like it was just like crazy things that you would see guys throwing 100 plus across the diamond and stuff like that. We all in high school, man. So it was crazy seeing the talent that was there, but it was one of those situations that if you were just there, you were on the map. You were going to start to get recruited. You were going to start getting looked at, things of that nature. So you couldn't really lose after you did all of your field events, and they would pick the ones that they liked the most, and they would do a scrimmage, and then based off that scrimmage, then they would pick 12 guys or something like that to fill a roster, and that would be Team USA. And then if you made on Team USA, then you would get drafted. Like you work on it. Like so. Obviously, once I learned that when I got there, I was like, okay, I got to figure out a way to get on the team. I didn't make it on the team, but no, it was a great experience, man. I had a lot of fun, and just like I thought it would be, man. As soon as I got back home, that was a weekend. As soon as I got back home, the calls just started rolling in from you name the schools, man. So once that recruiting process took off, man, it was new to me again because I wasn't thinking about playing baseball at the next level at that time. So I went through the recruiting process just trying to kind of stumble through it, not really knowing the questions to ask, not knowing what the calls necessarily meant, not knowing the difference between actually signing a letter of intent and giving a verbal. Like I didn't know the differentiation of things like that. So my eyes are wide open. I was going into it. I was enjoying the process. A&M Corpus reaches out to me. Never heard of Texas A&M Corpus Christi in my life. Didn't know who they were. Obviously did my research on them and stuff like that. And I talked to, he's still there, Scott Malone, the head coach there. And, he's like, I saw you at area code, things of that nature. And once I was pretty into the recruiting process by that time. So once I got to him, I kind of was like, okay, like I'm looking for at least it's a Division I program. Didn't want to be too picky in that process of things of that nature, and especially considering the fact that I still was like undecided if I was going to continue to play football, things of that nature. So went out there for my visit to A&M Corpus. Wow, I forgot about that. I went out there for my visit right after our football game. So we played our senior year. I think we played like Wiley or something like that. I can't remember who it was. Not really that important. Played them. Went back to the school. Just to put my pads up. Jumped in the car, and then we drove 6.5 hours all the way to Corpus Christi so I can have my recruiting visit that following day. So we drove all the way through the night. I like slept in the back seat right after the game, man. I still got the tape on my wrist and stuff. Like, I mean, it was one of those deals. We get out there and it was cool, man. Love the campus, man. Love the coach. It was a fun time for me. And they offered me right there on the spot when I had my one-on-one with Malone. So once I started seeing them, write scholarship numbers down and stuff like that, I was like, oh man, like this is big time. So definitely took advantage of the opportunity, and then I gave them a verbal commitment. And then when they sent me papers later on, I went ahead and decided to go with them. But that wasn't until I think going into the summertime where I decided that I would fully commit to A&M Corpus.
That's awesome. So how do you get ready for area code? And it's one of those, just like any big game or something like that, how do you prepare for it, or your approach is? Because I think naturally everyone's going to get nervous at that kind of thing when, if you're on a big stage. Do you approach it differently?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the training went, I didn't know too much what to expect. So that definitely helped. But I think the biggest thing I wanted to make sure I wanted to run fast. I wanted to highlight the tools that I knew I had. Right? I knew I could run, and I knew I was strong. So I wanted to make sure I showed that when I ran my 60 and when I took BP, I wanted to show my power. So that was one thing that I really focused on. At the time, I wasn't doing any too much, weight room stuff. I was lifting, but not to the degree of I would get to obviously when I get to college and stuff like that. But that's really what it was, man. I just wanted to stay ready. I wanted to not make it too big in my mind, so I didn't get out there and kind of shrink under the pressure. I just told myself that it's just an opportunity for me to show the tools that I have, and not make it a deal where based on performance determines how much money I get paid or something like that. I try to keep it as simple as I possibly could. So, my family and everybody made it more of a bigger deal than I tried to. So I tried to kind of tune all that noise out. I just tried to focus on the things that I knew I was good at and make sure I showed that to the best of my ability. So as far as training goes, that's as simple as it was, man. I just tried to make sure that my body felt well. And mentally, more than anything, I was ready to go. And
then the other thing is all that's very new to, a young teenager. And what kind of resources would you recommend to people that don't know the lingo, like you said, letter of intent, what the process is? Where can kids go and learn to make sure they're making a informed decision and not just signing their next 4 years away?
Yeah. There's no teacher like experience for sure, but I think just talking to people that have been through it, this is a great opportunity, if people can hear my story and just how to kind of go about it, if I can go back in time and do it over, or if I could just look at that whole process, 2020 hindsight now, I was very ill prepared for it. Nobody in my family had gone to play college sports of any nature, really, at least not at the Division I level. I was the only in my immediate family. I'm the only one that graduated college, from a 4-year and stuff like that. So that whole process was new to everybody around me. So we didn't know what to expect, but I would say if I can go back in time, I would have just tried to find people or listen to somebody that has gone through that process and learn as much as I could, whether that's asking coaches or just all that kind of stuff like that. I kind of have a tendency sometimes where I don't like to ask for help. So that definitely played a role back then, where I didn't just try and turn to people that I thought could possibly help me or ask somebody that could point me to somebody that could help me so I could understand that lingo, like you said, and know the questions to ask, man. I think if there's any advice I would give any young athlete that's going through the recruitment process, have a list of 5, 6, 7 questions that you are going to ask every single program that's interested in you. That's huge because schemes matter. Style of play matters. What you do well, what they're going to require of you, all that kind of stuff matters. And like I said, when looking at this 2020 hindsight, man, there were things that I definitely could have asked when I was going through my recruiting process of, what's going to be required of me? What can I do? Even from an educational standpoint, what programs are offered? Can I do this? Can I do that? I didn't have any of those questions. I kind of just went in just like, give me your best pitch and I'll decide if I want it or not. And although I don't necessarily like fault myself for that, there is a dynamic where I'm like, you could have handled that whole recruiting process a lot better if you actually had a plan and had a purpose for every, call that you had, every visit that you had, all those types of things like that. So, my advice would be, man, just try and learn from people, ask questions, and then for sure when you get in front of these coaches and recruiting coordinators and stuff like that, like make sure like they're trying to get you, you know what I mean? So you got to go into a kind of like, they need to sell you. And if they're not checking off, those boxes that you have, then, move them to the side. Doesn't mean you completely throw it in the trash, but just move it to the side. And maybe another program fits that mold for you. And, don't be so committed to, 'cause I see it so much with the kids nowadays, man. Don't be so locked in on, I got to play Division I this, or I got to go to this school, or I got to go to a Power 5. Like, that stuff's cute and all, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, sports have been around too long to where we know too many athletes that come from all over the place. We know athletes that have had great careers at huge schools and don't turn in them really much of anything when they get to the next level or whatever the case may be. Like those things are not in the cards for you. You don't know what's going to happen when you get to that point. So just go where you're going to play, go where your strengths are going to be heightened and highlighted, and that's really what you need to focus on. But you see kids nowadays, man, the bio, it's D1 this or whatever. Like, I'm like, that stuff is all cool and all, but it's clout chasing. At the end of the day, like, go where you're gonna play. It means nothing if you go to that school, you don't get playing time or whatever the case may be, or you get cut. Like, what good did you really do? So it's one of those deals, man. I think that just preparing yourself mentally as best you can to be able to engage properly with those coaches and coordinators, and then not having too much of an ego to say no to this opportunity. This opportunity may be lesser tier, but it's a better opportunity in the long haul for me. You have to be humble enough and honest enough to do those things.
Awesome. So now you're finishing up high school and you're jumping to Texas A&M Corpus Christi there on the baseball team. How big of a shift was it from being there in Frisco to going down south to Corpus?
I was on my own, so that was fun. Just a typical college kid, getting to be living on their own and all the things that go into the college lifestyle. But on the playing field, man, that was the first time I stepped into a baseball diamond, at least, and everybody is good. Every single person on that playing field was all district, all conference, all this, played here, did that, almost got drafted, whatever the case may be. Like, we're all on the same playing field at that point. So that was a shift for me. And again, you come in, you're top dog in high school and stuff like that, and then you come to college, and I remember just being shocked at just seeing like how big the guys are, how strong they were, how fast they were. Gosh, you didn't even look fast or fast, and like all these different things like that. And so talented, so technically sound. Like the speed of the game is just crazy, man. It's so much that is being thrown at you all at one time, on top of trying to figure out how do I handle my classes and where do I go for this and all these different things like that. So I was blessed though. I had a teammate that ended up being one of my best friends, man. He's a year older than me. He kind of took me under his wing and really just showed me the way to go about my business on and off the playing field. His name is Jordan Lee, and he was hands down, one of our best ball players on the team. But he definitely just showed me how to do things the right way. He showed me how to really become a student of the game, because like I said, at that time, I still wasn't a student of baseball. I played baseball up to that point. Like, obviously I had I knew how to play the game. But up to that point, I relied, excuse me, I relied so heavily on my athletic ability, not so much of really putting myself in the best position possible on the playing field to have success. And that gets exposed quick when you get to college. You see who's really a student of the game and who knows how to do things the right way and set themselves up for success and has an approach and has all these different things. And you see the ones that are just like, oh, I've always been strong, so I'm just going to try and bully ball this ball out of here and stuff like that. And the guys are too good. They expose you way too quick. So when I get there, man, the pitching carved me up that fall, man. Like, I had a hard time, bro. Like, I mean, I couldn't hit nothing. But again, it was just part of just like, you know, not having an approach, not really knowing what that looked like, not knowing how to build that, not knowing how to work on that in the cage and things of that nature. I had work ethic. I would work hard. That wasn't a problem, but it's just, if you don't know how to work right, you know, it's kind of wasted effort. So like I had to learn how to, you know, when I get in the cage, I had to learn how to have a process for how I'm trying to get to somebody actually throwing live BP to me, right? It's not just showing up and have somebody throw to you or being on the tee for 3 hours like that. All those things like that, like you feel like you're doing a lot of good work, but you're really not. So that definitely was a huge learning curve for me. So I had to catch on quick. I started to see the cutthroatness of college sports at that level of, you know, we came in, my class that came in at Corpus, we were, in 2012, we were the biggest class, I want to say at the time, maybe it's changed, that Corpus had ever had. And freshman class that came in. And before the fall starts, you'll have like, you know, small workouts here. Coach will put you in different groups and you will have a couple sessions. You know, NCAA controls the time limit that you have. So you get to work all day, thank God, because they would have us out there all day. But it would be situations where it's like, you know, you have, you know, 8 guys in a group of guys take swings for 45 minutes with our coach or assistant coaches, and same thing with infield work, outfield work, whatever you do. And but all in all, you have about 50 guys, close to 50 guys out there. That's a lot for a baseball team, as you know. Right? You never have that many guys on a baseball team. So, you know, we get out there day one at practice in the fall. It's just like everybody's out there. So many guys. Like, it's like, wow, like, I didn't know we carried this many on the baseball team. This just kind of looks weird or whatever. But the fall is a grind, man. The fall is a grind. It is, you know, we would go Monday were off days, and we would go Tuesday through Sunday. Obviously, you will have morning workouts. So lifts in the morning at 6 a.m., class all day. We're out there on the field by 1:15, 1:30, not leaving until almost 7 o'clock. That's Tuesday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, morning lift on Saturday. And then we would be out there until God knows when. Coach didn't want us out there in the morning on the weekends. It's hot, man. I'm in the furthest south you can be in Texas. It's hot, man. It's brutal out there. It's humid. It was rough, man. That first fall was brutal. So never played that much baseball in my life. Never demanded so much of my body in my life. Yeah. So it was a lot, bro. So the fall was tough, but like I said, then you get to see like the business side of it, right? You finish your fall, and then it's, you know, 20 guys are getting cut, you know, and then, okay, this is the actual team. But then within this team dynamic, only this amount of guys are traveling. So the other guys are not going to travel. Like, so you start to see kind of all that kind of stuff like that. And there's, you know, guys that you get there, you think everybody's on scholarship. Not everybody's on scholarship, because in baseball, you only have 15 tops scholarships that you can give out that they have to divvy up as far as money goes across the entire roster. Right. So do the math on that, you know, so like, it's a lot of stuff that you learn that first year, man. It was a lot.
So it's only a 30-man roster that gets to play in the spring?
Yeah. So really 25, really. 25. About 25. And you'll travel with, I don't know, maybe 20 or something like that. So I got redshirted my freshman year. So I was within that 25, but I didn't travel. So that was one of the a humbling time for me as a ball player, because that was a time never in my career, any sport I played, did I ever not start. So that was something to have my coach say, yeah, we just redshirting you. It's one of those deals that I didn't even really know what that meant when he told me. Until he's like, you're on the team, but you want to travel, this, that, and the other. So you still do everything when we're at home. You still got to be at practice every day. Home games, you're going to duck out like you're playing and stuff like that. But the only difference with being a red shirt is if, say, we were playing a home game and our starting second baseman broke his arm or something like that, there is a possibility that you can go play at that time. But I think you have to play a certain amount of games for your red shirt to be broken. So I'll still dress out, I'll still play, still go through BP, still go through everything like that. So in that scenario, something like that would happen. Your coach should have the wherewithal not to grab you because you are a red shirt. But if it gets dire like that and he grabs you, puts you on the field, I think you have to play maybe like 5 games or something like that. And then it breaks your red shirt. But if not, then you're still fine. You just wouldn't travel and all that kind of stuff like that. So that red shirt season for me was humbling, man. But it definitely lit a fire up under me to where, 2 things happen in a situation like that. You either kind of tuck your tail and feel sorry for yourself, or you take that opportunity and you work like hell. And that's what I did, man. Every time, obviously, when they were home during practice, stuff like that, I just outworked everybody that I could. And then when they were gone, I was on the field by myself all day, just taking swings, doing certain things like that. So I wanted coach to see my progress. And by the time the next fall rolled around, I wanted to be that guy. So I was just grinding like a madman, trying to seize every opportunity that I could that redshirt year, because I just wanted to show that I deserve to be there.
Do you have a specific routine that you did to make yourself a better hitter?
Yeah, man, it was really just a lot of, that's when I started to really study swings, of big league guys and kind of see their approach. Just look on YouTube and just see, okay, what is he doing when he's on the tee and things of that nature. And I would walk my tee when they were out of town. I would walk my tee to the field. I would hit in the cage for a little bit, then go to the field, transition to the field. I'm sitting off the tee on the field, and I would just pick quadrants of the field that I would hit at, right? So I would have a huge bucket of balls, and I would hit every single ball, and I would say, I'm hitting every single one of these balls to right center. And I would just drill all those balls, working up the middle, work all up the middle, work all pool side. Then when I did that, it was, that was probably, by then, 300 swings I already took by then. Then by that time, I knew I was tired, but I liked being in that fatigue state, because then mentally, then I would start to work myself a little bit, right? Then I would just try to visualize somebody on the bump, putting me in very odd counts, right? And think about what I need to do in this situation and just come up with all these scenarios. And I would just do that over and over and over and over and just get a feel for what my body was doing, playing with different loads, playing with hand placements, all different types of things, man. I changed my that freshman year, man, that freshman fall, bro, I probably changed my batting stance 8 times, man. I was doing all different types of things to be like, what can I do to have a little bit more success? So just tried to get back to the basics during that time when the guys were away, and just say, okay, like, what puts me in the best position to have success? Even if it feels a little funky, let's work through it right now. So once the fall comes around, I'm seeing live pitching and I'm seeing all that kind of stuff like that. Like, I'm no longer thinking, I'm just reacting and trusting my plan and stuff like that. So, and I worked on that during the season. And when I really saw it pay off was during the summer. So during college ball, they send you to different places, right, to go play. So they have all these different leagues all over the country. You'll stay with the host family. You'll do all those kind of things like that. Again, foreign to me. I knew nothing about that. Within like my second week on campus, our assistant coach comes to me and he's like, Brandon, where do you want to go play in the summer? And I'm like, what do you mean where I want to go play? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, what league do you want to go play in? I'm like, oh, I didn't know I could like pick a league. He's like, yeah, just tell me where you want to go play. And I'm like, okay. Like, so I give him a list of places I want to go. And I ended up in the Carolinas that summer. So I go play summer ball in Myrtle Beach that
Nice.
year. And that's when I was able to really put into practice and game-like settings everything that I've been working on during the season, from my approach and all that kind of stuff like that. And it's just crazy. As much as baseball players may hear it, man, when you have an approach, bro, like, it makes the game so much more easier. Like, I probably one of the best hitting performances I ever put on in my life was that summer, and it was just because I was just trusting mentally what I wanted to do. Every single time I stepped in the box, I had a plan for what I was trying to execute, and it just makes the game so much more simple. It sounds like it shouldn't be that simple, but it really is when you trust what you're doing. And that summer was monumental for me, for getting my confidence where I needed it to be, and being ready to go once the next season rolled around.
So how was that next season, sophomore year? You no longer a redshirt. How'd that go?
That went well. So that was an interesting season for me. So came in the fall, showed a lot of progress. I'm playing well, and trying to remember what happened to put me in this position. So if you know, when I was at Heritage, I played second base, right? My whole life, though, I played shortstop and third, mainly shortstop, and got recruited to Corpus, play second, all that kind of stuff like that. So my coaches didn't know that I could play shortstop. And we were doing a drill one day, and we were short a man, so we had to throw somebody in. I think we were doing 27 outs. So 27 outs, just coach back there, everybody's at their position. Coach is the one hitting the fungos, basically, but he's just trying to cause chaos, right? We got runners. Usually it's our pitchers. Poor pitchers, they always got to run for us. Like, so
they got it easy. Don't apologize to the pitchers. They got it easy. Don't apologize to the pitchers.
Seriously, though. So they always have to run, and they would hit fungos right to us, trying to cause chaos. And we just have to make plays. It's like a regular game. We got to get 27 outs, right? If we make an error, if we do anything like that, we switch teams. Okay, so and if we make too many errors, the coach get mad, it would start running or something like that. So anyway. We're playing 27 outs and need somebody at short. They throw me in at short. They try to pick on me, right? Because they think I can play short. So they hit a couple balls for me, make a couple plays. Hit some harder plays to me, make some huge plays, right? And everybody's like, oh, wow. Like, Brandon, like, he can play short a little bit. So everything is like, what's the word I'm looking for? Or I guess I can say this how it was for my time when I was there. Everything was so what's hot now? What's the wave right now? So, like, everybody saw that, like, ooh, Brandon looks pretty good at short. So then the next day I play short the whole day, right? And the next day I play short the whole day. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those deals. It could be a pitcher. If a pitcher was at center one time and he made a diving catch, the next week he might be at center. Like, that's just kind of like how they should do it. So, I killed that short doing 27 outs. And again, it's natural for me, right? So I'm in my bag, doing my thing, and play there the next day, and then I become like the full-time shortstop. Boom, so now I'm playing shortstop. And so I'm doing that throughout the whole fall, having a good fall and all that, and end up having my second knee surgery. So I was doing fine, body was feeling good, and I remember just like I was all of my knee procedures, bro. They're really weird. So I've had 3 surgeries now on one leg, and so this would have been my second one. Same knee, right knee, and every time I've always had an injury to it or something's going on with it, I know what it feels like when something's wrong in there because I've had it enough now. But it's always a mystery how it happens. It's not one of those deals where it's like, oh, I did this and boom, I felt this, or I felt this pop. Right? Like, it's never anything like that. So I was at home actually after practice, and I was all I remember is I like dropped my homework on the ground or something like that, and I bent down to pick it up. And when I stood up, my knee just was really crunchy, the nasty noise, right? And I was like, oh, that just felt weird, like whatever. Wake up the next morning, I could feel it getting swollen. I wake up the next morning, my leg is like super swollen. I can like hardly walk, right? So I make it through practice, just kind of limping around, whatever. Went in and got treatment a little bit, and it was like, I can kind of manage and do what I got to do. So go out there the following day, I'm still swollen. So now my leg is like, if I can stand up, I'll show you stuff like doing that. But like my leg is like stuck like this. Like I can't extend it. I can't really do anything. It's just like locked in one place, right? So I I'm like, this is so weird. I've never had this happen to me before, but like, it's so painful to try and extend my leg. So, I go to practice. I'm like, this can't be happening. Like, I'm playing well. Like, all this is going good. Like, this, that, and the other. So, go out to practice. And I don't tell my trainer. Like, my trainer knows, he can see, like, I can hardly walk. Like, I'm just trying to gut it out. But I won't even look his direction. Like, so I know if I look at him, he's going to pull me off the field. So, like, I'm like running out there trying to do drills, limping all over the place. Like, I'm just gutting it out, doing the best I can not to show that I'm in pain. And we would do a knee drill. Our head coach was an infielding coach. So I always was with him. And we did a knee drill on both knees, hand behind your back, just working on your picks, doing all kind of stuff like that. One of my favorites. I love that drill. But I couldn't even put both knees on the ground. Like, I had to put my right leg out to the side and just be like, oh, my left knee. And I just look super awkward, right? And I'm just trying to do it, just trying not to show down there's so much discomfort. And then, like, he just walked over to me. He was like, my trainer, he walked over. He was like, you're done. Come inside with me. So, like, I went inside and he was looking at my leg and stuff like that. I was in a cold tub. And he was like, your leg is so swollen. He was like, at this point, I don't know if, like, or your knee rather, your knee is so swollen. He was like, I don't know what you did, but you did something. He's like, you either like tore an ACL, you tore something. Like, your knee is so swollen. So, hear that news. I'm like, man, I'm hoping not, but they set an MRI up for me. Go get that done. And sure enough, I didn't tear my meniscus. That was good. But I had cartilage that broke off. And it had, like, lodged itself in, like, the mechanism of my knee. And it was, like, limiting my ACL. So, like, I couldn't, like, move my leg at all. So, anyway, thankfully, it didn't, like, sever my ACL because it could have. So I had to get that procedure done. Nothing too crazy, but they just go in, scope it, pull that cartilage out. So I did that. So I had a surgery towards the end of my fall going into the spring. So instead of coming home for Christmas break, getting ready to go into the start of the season, I had to stay in Corpus and I had to rehab by myself. I was like the only one on campus, like, and I had to try and rehab my knee and get back right. And so that year I didn't start at short because I wasn't ready to go by the time the season started. So they had somebody else replace me at short. He was playing pretty well, doing all this kind of stuff like that. So I just backed him up that year. And then, but I would get like sporadic moments where it would be like, I prided myself, my game on, I could hit and I could do stuff like that. But for the most part, like, I was a defensive ball player. I just was really good at playing defense. But I think for me, it was one of the moments where I could, like, my athleticism could take over a little bit. So that's why defense was pretty easy for me. So in tight games, tight moments and stuff like that, they would just put me in late innings and stuff like that. We had to hold the lead. If we had to get back into the ball game because it was close or something like that, then they would put me in at short and I would finish the game there. So that's pretty much what my role was half the season there. Yeah, for the most part. And that was a tough season for me because I feel like that season kind of got robbed from me because of my injury. I just feel like I didn't get an opportunity to really show what I could do enough the way I was trending throughout the fall and stuff like that. So I was excited where I was going, and then I had the injury, and then things just didn't go the way I want them to go that time. And that was honestly a tough time for me, bro. So that was my redshirt freshman year, and I remember we were at the conference tournament in Arkansas, and I remember being in the hotel, and I called my dad, and I told him, I was like, man, I'm ready to transfer. Like, I was like that close to like telling him like I don't want to be here no more. Like, I just feel like, things aren't going my way, this, that, and the other. So he talked me off the ledge, and I ended up staying. But that was a tough time for me, man. I was ready to call it quits and leave Corpus, but I ended up staying, man.
Yeah, how do you handle that mentally when it's not just your first injury? This is the second time you've had a knee injury, and does it creep into your minds like, oh, is this going to happen again? Or how do you get through that and just continue forward?
I have to thought, I guess, a little bit if it would happen again. It wasn't too strong of a thought, and I think only because the surgery that I had wasn't that I didn't tear something again or something like that because of the type of procedure that it was. it sounded more like a freak accident to me. So I was like, okay, like that's life. I can't really do anything about that. More of the mental hurdle was putting pressure on myself and feeling like I was running out of time. I had an idea in my head of like how my college career would go up to that point, and it wasn't panning out that way. So I just started to like feel panicked and feel like I had to rush, and like that goes to the conversation I have with my father when I'm like, hey, I want to transfer. I mean, I'm my redshirt freshman year, man. I'm trying to leave, like, you know, just things of that nature, like just to throw away everything that I was already building over in Corpus and stuff like that. Like I was willing to do that just because I was putting so much pressure on myself to feel like I had to play a certain way, or, you know, for things to look a certain way for me at that point in my career. So that's really what it was, man, was just trying to calm myself down and tell myself that just to focus on getting better and not be so locked in on the results and lack thereof, man. So that was probably the hardest mental hurdle I had to get over for sure.
Yeah. But so how sweet was it when you're there in Corpus and you get a start for the first time?
It was great, man. I actually started for the first time that sophomore year. Yeah, my first start was at UT Pan American, and it was that's like south, like we're south in Corpus, but like you almost in Mexico when you go play UT Pan Am. And we went to go play them, and I got my first start there on a Tuesday night, and I played well, man. As soon as I stepped in, I played really well, got the game ball, got all that kind of stuff like that. So it was great, man. It felt good to have that moment. It was in full transparency, man, it was like when I got to that point, I don't think I just didn't handle failure good enough at that point because I didn't see a lot of it up to that point. So it was such an adjustment for me to like properly put myself in like the correct mental space to be like you're here for a reason, Brandon. You can play, bro. Don't doubt your abilities. Don't doubt your confidence. Don't throw in the towel, all those things like that. So when I stepped on the field game one, man, it was like I played with my hair on fire, man. Like I feel like I had so much to prove. And although that can be good sometimes, looking back, I still think that I had like the wrong intent behind that. I just was trying to prove so much. Like I just wanted to show everybody, like, y'all are making a mistake. I should be playing every day, like all this kind of stuff like that. Now, granted, like I said, I had a really good game, but I can tell you for a fact that like that was my mentality. And honestly, that was my mentality kind of going forward for the rest of my career there, man. I just felt like I always had something to prove, and I really didn't. But I carried this chip on my shoulder from those experiences that I was having. And, you know, again, looking back, that was one of those deals where I definitely could have went about that a completely different way for sure.
So are you talking about more driven by external motivation rather than internal of like what you value and why you're doing it?
Exactly. I lost that, man. I lost that in college, bro. I like I said, I just got to a point where, and it's tough, you know, because you play, when you play at that level, and then especially if you take something like baseball, man, there's so much failure that happens in baseball. You know, you get out so much. It's so hard to hit. It's so like it's just so many different things that go into that sport. But I got lost in the results all the time, and it's hard not to, because in the day, like that's how we judge, man. That's how my coach judges me. My coach judged me by the stat sheet that was in front of him. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, you build relationships with these guys and things of that nature. And I'm not saying there's necessarily anything really wrong with that. It's just the nature of the business. So, like, you kind of have to keep that in mind. Like, if I don't play well, I'm putting myself at risk of losing what I worked for. So, you know, for me, I think I got too encapsulated into the result of everything. And I lost the joy, bro. By the time I finished playing there, man, like I was not having fun playing baseball anymore. It became a grind for me. It became hard to want to go to practice. Like, it was just all of these different things that I never felt before and thoughts I never had before. They started to become my dominant feelings because I had just lost myself, man. So grateful for the whole experience for sure, but looking back, I did not handle that situation well. I had good times. Don't get me wrong. It was great experience, and I had success and all those different things like that. But things could have gone even better than how they went if I would have been able to handle things a lot better emotionally.
Well, it's like you said, a great experience. And now looking back, I think that's probably why you transitioned successfully too, is you can kind of realize what drives you and what you value. And that shift, I think, is huge. I do want to kind of have some questions about your baseball career, because very few people get to play Division I baseball. So that's pretty awesome. And do you remember like the best pitcher you faced, or what was the toughest at bat?
I definitely saw some good pitchers, hands down. Even on my actual team, my staff, having to face them every day. But I would say there was a pitcher, and I can't remember his name. There was a pitcher that I faced from TCU in a tournament that we played in one year. And he, I think, was sitting like 101.
Wow.
So he was like the hardest that he threw the hardest for sure. But that didn't really intimidate me by any means. Once you get to that level, man, like you kind of, well, I guess it kind of depends on the type of hitter you are. I was one of those guys, man, like I wanted you to feel like you could beat me with your fastball, because I didn't get beat by many fastballs. But to my detriment with that, right, at least for me, because of that approach, I was over aggressive sometimes, right? And you get taken advantage of at that level, man. Guys are too good, right? So people would see that I would sit so heavy fastball, and I was so ready to hit fastballs that people could just kill me with off speed, right? And I didn't have great approaches with that kind of stuff like that, unless I was really locked in and really in like a hot streak at that time, and I would handle that well. But I know probably the hardest day in a box I probably ever had was my senior year. We played Texas State in a tournament, and we always had a tournament at the beginning of the year where the Corpus Christi Hooks play, and that's the AAA affiliate of the Astros. So their team is based in Corpus. They play at Corpus. They have this field called Whataburger Field that they play at, and we would get to play them. We would play that at the start of each season. We have a tournament, teams all over. 5, 6 teams, but I mean, we playing the best teams, the OUs, everybody's coming and stuff like that. So that year, Texas State was one of the teams in there, and they had a lefty that they threw against us a day game, and honestly, that probably was like most frustrating game of my career, hands down. Like it was some crazy stuff happening in that game. They had a lefty on the bump, and he wasn't even like. He had good stuff. If this guy ever sees this, you know what I'm talking about. I'm really not trying to disrespect you, bro. But like he was a good pitcher, but he wasn't anything miraculous by any means. It's Sunday. Usually, by the time you get to your Sunday arm probably like he's good, but he get hit. He probably throws to contact a lot. So Sundays you got to play defense because you probably gonna get a lot of hits, right? So it's the Sunday guy, nothing too crazy, and he was a side armor and like 3/4 side arm, and he probably was sitting I don't know, 85, 88, nothing crazy, man. But he was throwing my timing off just enough to where like I wasn't missing, like not swinging through it. I just fouled off every single great pitch that I had. Like I could not time him up to save my life. And like I will go like super long ABs, like 8-9 pitch ABs, just fouling all these pitches off that just were like great pitches for me to hit, bro. But I just could not get it right with him. So I ended up with like 3 Ks against that guy that day. I ended up with an error in the field that like has never happened to me, man. I swear a guy squares up a ball, hits it right to me. Like I did not have to move my feet, like hits it right to me. Ground ball. I'm like this cake, man. Like whatever. Getting ready to field it, man. And I kid you not, it goes right through my legs, bro, for a double. Just right through the middle of my legs for a double. To this day, my wife was there, my girlfriend at the time. My wife, man, like I told her to this day, she still laughs when we talk about it. I'm like, I remember when I left, I was so frustrated after the game. And I was talking to my family, and they were like, Brandon, like, what happened on that ground ball? And I was like, guys, I literally felt like, you know how kids, when they like will miss a ball, they'll look and act like they have a hole in their glove. I legit thought I had a hole in my glove. I was like, there's no way this ball just went like right through my leg. Like, I didn't feel it touch me. I didn't feel it touch my glove. I didn't feel anything. I was like it was almost like I was like disappeared right there. Like, it was the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. Like, but nah, that picture that day, man, he had my number, man. That was for sure the most frustrating day I probably ever had in the box, man.
Oh yeah, that's especially with those long at bats. You feel like you're going to get something, and then you have 3 Ks.
Yeah,
that sucks. And then errors, they definitely stick with you way more than any good play you've ever made. I'm sure you can remember all your errors, but all the good plays kind of get forgotten.
Every single error I can remember.
So the other thing, what about, other than your home stadium there in Corpus Christi, what was the favorite stadium you got to play at?
UT.
Nice. Took 'em.
Yeah.
I was at one of your games. I remember going to watch you play. I thought that was so cool. You being on that big stage.
Yeah, we played them. We usually play them every year, but what year was it? It would have been my junior year. Yeah, my junior year. That year I was starting at short. We played UT, and yeah, that was a fun game, man. It was. We hadn't beat them yet. We always kind of got close to beating UT, but we hadn't beaten them yet. They're a really good program that year, and it was actually a crazy game, man. We had there's a guy on my team that he played short the previous year, and when we went to UT again that previous year, and we played you guys, and I think it was 3 times in a row, somebody popped up to him at shortstop, and he dropped. And I mean, you've been to the game. There's a bunch of people there. It's loud. It's a huge stadium. Like, I mean, it's big time, right? And he dropped every single pop up that went to him, right? Just right off his glove. Boom, dropped it. Next one again. Boom, dropped it. Another one. Boom, dropped it. Right? All in one game, right? And so we fast forward to the following year, and I was playing short that game. And I remember like doing warm-ups and stuff like that. I was thinking that the whole time. I'm like, man, like, there's like a curse here at shortstop, man. Like, I cannot drop one of these pop-ups in front of all these people on TV and everything like that. Like, I was all nervous. And sure enough, I think it was like anyone. Wow, somebody hits a pop-up right to me immediately, right? I ended up catching it, but I remember like I was just like so shook. I'm like, brother, do not drop this ball, bro. Like, and he hit it so high, I felt like it was in the air for forever. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, do not drop this. But but no, that game was fun, man. I was we all played well, man. I had a really good game, man. We played well. We ended up beating you guys. But the best part about that time was like once we started getting to the later innings, like 6 through 9, and like you guys start to feel like, okay, like we're like for real losing. We got to like pick it up a little bit. You know what I mean? And it was like the energy in the stadium just changed, bro. Like it got so loud, and it was just like, it just changed, bro. Like the whole dynamic of like, you really felt the gravity of like, okay, like they're trying to come back. They really, really are trying to come back right now. So being able to kind of hold that down during that time, man, that was probably one of the best experiences that I had on the baseball field, man. That was a fun game, man. It really was.
That's awesome. Do you like the turf field? What do you think about the turf?
I do. For as an infielder, I love it, man. That was if I played infield at UT, I used to say all the time, I was like, I feel like I would never make an error here, like ever. Like every hop is so true. And if you hit it, you know, if a batter hits the ball and it just like it has no bouncing, just a pure ground ball, like I mean, it's literally just rolling to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like on that turf, it doesn't start to hop and skip and all that kind of stuff like that. The field I played on at Chapman and Corpus, man, that field, man, I used to get beat up, man. Like I used to get anywhere you name it, I got hit in the eye and the nose and I used to get hit all over the places because it would look fine and it just would catch and just take off on you, man. You'll get hit all over the place. So honestly, that's what made me an even better infielder, man, was just learning how to like manipulate my playing field and it didn't look like that. It didn't look like it would play that way because we had like the Corpus Christi field crew, or not Corpus Christi, the Hooks, the Hooks field crew that worked on our field. So our field always looked pristine, right? So it didn't look like it would play that way. But, you know, by inning 2 or right after we took BP or something like that, like, oh my goodness, you didn't know what you were about to get. Like, so it just taught me how to, like, really know how to read hops and angles and all that kind of stuff like that. Like, I just got really good at it because our field, you didn't know what you're about to get. Like,
definitely makes you a better ball player, though. So that's a plus.
For sure. Yeah.
So how did that transition go from, you know, playing ball in college, and now you're getting near the end of your time there, and you got to figure out what's next? How do you approach that?
It came quick, bro. Like I said a minute ago, I wasn't having fun with the game anymore by that time. I felt like it was one of those deals where life was just starting to catch up with me pretty quickly, and started to divert my focus a little bit. So, like, for example, I was taking, I think my senior year while playing ball, I was taking almost 20 hours. So during the season, and that's like almost frowned upon. Like, you don't want to take that many because you travel so much and stuff like that, and missing so much class. And I had so much work to do that, like, I wasn't really too much focused on, like, what I had to do on the playing field and things of that nature. And I was battling, like, so many, like, tick-tacky knick-knack injuries, man. I feel like I couldn't really keep myself healthy no more at that time of my career, and it was just frustrating me. It was affecting my mood. It's affecting my playing time. It was affecting all kind of stuff like that. So all that during the time, I'm engaged at the time. So I graduated December 16. I get engaged in June. Yeah, that summer prior to. Yeah, would have been? No, 15. It'd have been at 15. So that whole next year, that whole senior season, I'm engaged. And so that was different, trying to kind of prep myself for that, like, what is this going to look like as I transition into being a married man and all these things like that. So, and I was away from my wife. My wife was in Dallas. She's from Iowa, but at the time she had moved to Dallas for me and stuff like that. But I'm still 6.5 hours away from her. So I didn't get to see her a lot. There was just a lot of things just kind of taking my focus away. And I still had another year to play. And mind you, I redshirted. So I was really technically in my redshirt junior year. So educationally, I was in the classroom, I was a senior, but on the playing field, I was a redshirt junior. And that year was just a very trying year for me, man. Like I said, I couldn't stand baseball at that time, man. It just was rough on me. And I feel like everybody could see it. Like, I feel like my teammates could kind of sense it in me, man. Like, I wasn't very pleasurable, in my opinion, to really kind of be around that time. And what ended up happening was, like I said, I was a redshirt junior, and this was maybe 2-3 weeks before the season ended. We had a horrible season that year. Horrible season. We were just losing games left and right. That didn't make it better either. So losing games left and right. And I don't remember what, like, the light bulb moment was for me. I think I just, like, started to really come into realization of where I was mentally and how I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I was like, well, what's the point of continuing to do this if I literally am not having a good time doing it anymore? And I'll graduate in December, and I'll have to come back and either get my master's, or, which, going back, I wish I would have got my master's. I still got my master's, but regardless, like, but having to just, like, you know, take some classes, go through all that kind of stuff like that, and then not even really enjoy what I'm doing anymore. So I was like, I think the time is just right for me to call it a career. And that was tough, man. I battled that for probably half the season, honestly. That's what was making it tough on me, was like I was starting to have those feelings of, like, you know, this might be it, but didn't want to seem like I quit. Didn't want to seem like I didn't see something through. Didn't want to. I just couldn't really deal with that failure of it. So I pushed off those feelings for a long time, and then just came to a point where I was just like, I have to do it. I I either have to do it or like I feel like my coach is going to do it for me, because like it was just apparent in just all of my body language and stuff like that I was checking out. And so I called him. I called my dad first and told him, and that was tough, man, because again, it was a situation where growing up, like I was looked at as the kid that was going to play professionally, and stuff like that. And, you know, my family would brag on me so much, and I had so many good things going for me. And like, so that's how everybody knew me. Everybody knew me as a good athlete, as a baseball player and stuff like that. So having to have that conversation with him, I felt like I did feel like I was quitting on like everybody, and that did suck. But I knew that it was the best decision for me. So after having that conversation, I reached out to my coach and told him that, because we were approaching senior day, and, you know, you get like all your stuff, like your bat with your name engraved on it and all that kind of stuff like that. And I wanted to at least have that kind of stuff. So I like reached out to him last minute, and I was like, hey, I think once this season concludes, man, I think I'm gonna hang it up, and stuff like that. And he understood, and we went about that way. So kind of the sad part about the whole conclusion of it was I didn't even get to play my last game of my college career. It turned out that senior day was at home, and that was our last game. And it didn't mean anything. Both teams we were playing, we weren't making a tournament or anything like that. So at 30, it's just the last game on the schedule. And my family comes down, and everybody's family's down, right? So senior day and stuff, and we do the whole ceremony before where coach gives me like my bat and all that kind of stuff like that. We take our pictures, we do the whole deal, and that's all before the game. Game starts. I'm playing third at this time, right? So get out there. Inning one, we're on defense first, obviously 3 up, 3 down. Inning two, 3 up, 3 down. I'm on deck, man. We were kind of looking at the weather all day to kind of see. And Corpus, it rains pretty much every day, bro. Like, it's so humid out there. It's always storming and raining. If it's not unbearably hot. So, so I was on deck, bro. Literally on deck, getting ready to have my last AB, where the start of the game had just started, right? So my first AB in my last game, and I'm on deck, and lightning. So we have to stop, right? Take a break, and then it absolutely pours for like 30, 35 minutes. I mean, just absolutely like torrential downpour. Like, it is just dumping water, bro. Destroys the field. And it was a fun moment at the time. Looking back, I'm like, man, like I didn't even get to play my last game of my career, but it was kind of a fun moment. Like, all the parents went inside to like the kind of the locker room area. We had these windows. You could see like the baseball field from the windows, and they were trying to stay up out of the water and stuff like that. And they finally called the game, and we all, like all my teammates, we ran on the field and we like slid in the water on the tar, like did all that kind of, like it was like a little movie scene, right? We're all like hugging each other and like sliding in the water and stuff like that. Like, it was fun. So like all the parents were like inside crying and stuff like that, like watched us do all that. So it was cool for that that memory that I had. But I definitely wish I could have had the opportunity to play my last game all the way through. So that haunts me a little bit every now and again. But after that, man, that transition was swift, man. I graduated December of 16, and then I go straight into, well, actually, so that would have been 2015. I'm sorry, as far as playing goes. So my last game was in 2015. I have to come back to school. I'm not longer playing ball anymore, but I come back to school to finish my last semester and graduate in December. So that made it a little bit easier to go back to school and kind of disassociate myself from being an athlete. I was just a student there. So that kind of helped. One of my good friends at the time and my teammate, he decided to step away as well. He redshirted with me. He decided to step away the same time that I did. So, and we actually lived together. So it was good for us probably to live together, because we did live together for like 3 years or something like that. So it was good for us to kind of lean on each other during that time of just being like, okay, this is different for us now. Like, I can come home and drink a beer now, you know, stuff like that from class and stuff. Like, so it was definitely cool for those reasons. But I graduated in December of 16, and I go straight into kind of like trying to find employment. Never had a job before in my life. Trying to find employment. I got a degree, but never had job experience. And a couple months down the road, I'm getting married. So life came fast when I graduated, man. Like as soon as I got my diploma, then it was just like try and find a job, become a husband, try and figure out how to do both things. Try and grieve that you're no longer playing ball anymore. Like it was a lot that was being thrown at me. So it was pretty dark and tough for some time, man. Right.
What did you study?
I got my bachelor's in business admin, so I majored in management there.
And did you have any idea of? I mean, when I was high school age, I just wanted to play sports, and I didn't really think about career too much other than sports. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do post baseball?
Not really, bro. If I'm being honest with you, I didn't know. I was so locked in on being an athlete, and that's kind of what scared me too when I was in the process of trying to figure out if I would continue to play or not. Was trying to, I was having those thoughts and trying to figure out, okay, what is it that I'm good at? What can I do? I had no idea, and I battled that for years. Even once I graduated, it was tough for me to figure out what I was good at. I didn't want to just do any type of job. And I feel like I had more to offer than just a standard 9 to 5. But at the same time, I didn't know what I was necessarily good at in the corporate sector. So I had to try a lot of different things, man. I worked all types of jobs, bro. Like, I mean, I think my very first job was, I was at Raising Cane's for like 2 weeks. Maybe that was my very first job, and I didn't want to apply there. I didn't want to work there, but I told my wife, I was like, I'll only do it if, like I work the register. I don't want to be back there making chicken. Like I don't want to do that. And it started out like that. I started out at the register, and then like they eventually like kind of like started to shift me back to the kitchen. I remember the day I was there. I was making the toast. I was doing the toasting. You probably
toast.
Not probably. Yeah, the toast is good, but you know how the lines are at Cane's. They're ridiculous, right? Like they're all the time and stuff like that. So it's very fast paced. I was trying to do the toast, and I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to be doing it, and I feel like really low and stuff like that. And I was like, and I was messing up and stuff like that. And I was hearing people screaming at me and stuff, and I'm just like, yo, like. I went on my lunch break, and I remember just being like, I'm not going back. So sorry to that employer at Cane's. I didn't come back, but I couldn't, bro. So I went home for my break, and I was like, I'm done. So I quit there, and then I worked at Academy for a little bit. I worked at Dick's in the mall at Stonebriar up here. I worked there for a little bit, and it was just those moments right there where, like, it wasn't that I was purposely choosing those places. Like, that's all that I could get with my experience. So it did suck to feel like, okay, like I have this degree that everybody says is so important to have and things of that nature, and it'll help you once you're looking for a job and building a career. But I literally could not build a career because nobody would give me a chance. So I had to work all those little jobs. And again, I was at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I remember just being like, I'm in Frisco, like, somebody's going to walk in and see me. They know who I am, you know? So it's like all those things are just like kind of feeling embarrassed and like, you know, all these different things like that. So like I was kind of dealing with a lot there during that time. But eventually I got where I need to be.
Yeah. And I would imagine it's really hard doing those jobs when you don't have a good idea of what your objective is, where if that was part of the plan, you know, do this, save up some money and then go here next. But the unknown is kind of the biggest thing that for me, that's what would cause, I don't know if his anxiety is the right word or just all the unknown adding stress. Yeah,
for sure. It was all that. And again, like I said, I'm a newly married man at that time. So, you know, feeling like my wife's career is taking off and I couldn't get anything to go for myself, and you start to second guess yourself and am I providing the right way? And like, it was a lot, man.
Yeah. So these are all, I mean, I think looking back, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say you were in kind of a dark negative mindset place. How did you shift that to where you are now?
Doing soul searching. I think it got to a point where I was finally able to be honest with myself and say that, and deal with the grief that I felt for no longer being an athlete, no longer playing the game that I love, and for it to end the way that it did. It hurt, and I packed it down for a long time. And, shortly after my career finished, I just really wasn't proud of the man I was at that time. Like, I think it was, I didn't represent myself the way that I wanted to represent myself. I made some really poor decisions early in my marriage, and just like different things like that, where like I had to really learn how to, sit with myself, man. And it took a time where I ended up losing my job. I was working at a place called, this is actually right before, was it right before? Yeah, this was right before I got married. Actually, this was a week before we got married. So me and my wife were living in Dallas in an apartment. And I had this job. I used to give hitting lessons. And there was a gentleman that I gave lessons to, his son, and he was a business owner. And he knew that was the only thing that I was doing right now, was giving lessons, because I couldn't get hired anywhere. And he was like, what are you doing outside this? I don't have a job, this, that, and the other. He was like, well, I do this at my job, this, that, and the other. And he was a really good guy. And he was like, I would love to set up an interview with you and stuff like that. So I have this interview, and then I get hired like on the spot for this guy's company. And it's in Addison where I'm working. And so I go there. Great opportunity for me at the time. I'm making good money and being paid weekly, all this kind of stuff like that. Money I never saw before. So I'm like, oh man, I'm making really good money. The job was, it still wasn't something that I really wanted to do, but regardless of the fact that I was like, hey, he's giving me an opportunity, like I'm going to milk this for them, everything that I can. And did that for some time, and started to get uncomfortable with how like business was being done there. And once I started to point some things out, things started to get, like to my management at the time, I started to point things out, things started to get a little more like, I don't know, just dicey for me. I could just tell that relationships kind of switched, and conversations changed with me and things of that nature. And I still would go home and I would be like, babe, like, everything's good, but this just seems like odd the way things are going. Like, I don't understand this, and this looks like this, and this, that, and the other. And I ended up having another conversation with my boss and at the time, and still they just kind of just like acted like it was no big deal. Like, it kind of was just me almost like making things up. And I remember I was on break and I was on the phone outside one of those days. And again, it's a week before we get married. We were going to drive to Iowa, get married in Iowa. That's what the plan was. That's where our wedding was. And they walked outside with all of my stuff, my bag, my coffee cup, everything. We handed it to me, and they fired me right there in the parking lot. Don't know why, didn't know what I did, but they fired me. So that's a week before we get married. I drive home, and I remember just like crying in my wife's arms. I'm like, I just don't understand. Like, what am I doing wrong? Why do I keep like running into this roadblock of like these bad opportunities? Like, but I need a chance for somebody to give me a chance, but nobody will. And I was just kind of going through all these different things like that. And again, this was a week before we got married. Still go to Iowa, still get married, never come back. Shortly after, I get a job to work for this company called Main Event, or Main Event out here, or the bowling, yep, arcade, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah. So I work for their corporate office in Plano, and start there. It's a call center job and stuff like that. So I'm doing that. My division that they brought on to the corporate side was like an extension of the sales team there. So we were a brand new division within the corporate office. So I was in the corporate office. It was a good setting. It was cool. I really felt like I was actually like, okay, I can maybe build a career out of this. Like, again, it's not what I really want to do like that, but regardless, it's a stepping stone to build what I may want to do within this industry. So, did that, excelled immediately, was having a ton of success. I was like one of the first people they put on the floor, like immediately. Everybody was still training because I was doing so well, and kind of just took it and ran. And I was doing really well there, and did that for man, how long did I do that for? Maybe 6-7 months or something like that. But my hours were bad, man. I worked all day. Like, I had like really odd hours. I worked, to start, for the first couple months, I worked a 4-day. And I would go in, I think at noon, and I wouldn't get off till almost 9:30 each day. Newlywed, never getting to see my wife at all because she would leave in the morning. I would still be asleep. And I would go to work and then come home and she would be asleep. So like we never got to spend time with each other during that time. And I think I had like a weird schedule. I would work like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday or something. I had like an odd day off in between. Like it was a really, really weird schedule that I worked. And then after doing that for a couple of months, I eventually told my boss, I'm like, hey, like, you know, I'm freshly married. I don't get to spend any time with my wife. Like, can I just do a regular, like, Monday through Friday? Like, I don't really care what the hours are, but can I at least have the weekend with her and stuff like that? And they worked it out to where I was able to do that. But I just didn't like what I was doing. It was too much of a grind. I don't like being on the phones like that. And I was on the phones all day long, bro. Like, all day long. Phone ring off the hook. So I had to get, like, really irritable with that kind of stuff like that. And I'll take responsibility for it. I had a really tough call with somebody that wanted something done I couldn't do. And like, I ended up hanging up on them because I just couldn't get through them. I was just like, whatever, like, I hang up. And they actually, HR then calls me in like later that day or something like that. And then they fired me over that call. Don't know why. Why that was like my one strike and I was out. But So anyway, so then I get fired from there. And so now I'm back at square one and I kind of goes to my original answer of like, that's when I had to do some reflecting and say, okay, Brandon, like what, almost kind of like what I was talking about earlier about the my high school experience, my freshman year, right? Like, okay, some of this is just bad luck, but some of it now you're starting to get into your own way. We got to course correct, bro. We got to sit here and we got to figure out, like, what's the problem? What are you dealing with? And I sat jobless for, like, probably 3-4 months. I told my wife, I said, I don't want to look for anything right now. I just need some time to be and just figure out what it is I need to do. And during that time of just being by myself so much every day, that's when I was able to self-reflect and see, okay, like, really what your problem is, like, you're still grieving from what's going on with your athletic career and like all these different things like that. And that's causing you to act this way and act out of character here and all these different things like that. And, it took a lot of that time of, just being by myself, crying to myself, like all different things like that, praying, asking God, like, okay, God, like what direction do I need to go in? What am I doing? What am I self-sabotaging, things of that nature? And that's when the kind of the start of a new brand and the start of getting to where I am now with EXOS, that's where it kind of started and culminated. So I started thinking about, okay, what do I have a passion for? What do I like? I'm an athlete. I like performance. I like to move. I like to do different things like that. And I just have a fascination with like that industry, right? So start to look into that. And I tried to go the entrepreneurial route. So then I started to look into, okay, I'm going to start my own business. So I would, every day I would wake up and I would just start a business plan. And I just put a whole business plan together from top to bottom, like 25 pages, typed it all out, run the numbers, do all that kind of stuff like that. And I was like, at this point, I'm just going to bet on myself and I'll pitch it to somebody and see if they'll fund it. And I'll figure out from there because nothing else is going my way at this point. So I'm going to try this and start to work through that kind of stuff. And down the line, I was able to make some connections to some people that were interested and things of that nature. And then that's when Iowa came into play to go back to Iowa. Met a connection out there, met a gentleman that would be interested in letting me use his space to run my business. I was working on a business partner out there coming on with me, helping me, that already had kind of her own little buzz in the fitness industry and things of that nature. And long story short, things kind of fell to the wayside with him right before we got started. Just wasn't on the same page with me anymore. And once that kind of took place, then I kind of was back at square one. And I was like, well, if I can't do it exactly how I want to do it, then I'll just pass. In the meantime, I'm getting my certification to be a trainer and all that kind of stuff like that. And then I get hired on to be a performance coach at a performance facility in Iowa. So I fly out there to have my interview, do all that kind of stuff like that. They hire me on the spot, come back to Texas. I'm like, hey, I guess we're moving to Iowa. So we packed everything up. We went out there, and I started the journey out there in Iowa.
What kind of business were you trying to start? You said
I wanted to start a sports training facility. Like, I wanted to do that. I just didn't want to do it out here because I knew of EXOS, because I had been here and I knew kind of what we do and our scope. And I know of other places around here that are really good at what they do and stuff like that. And I was like, there's no way I can compete with that. So I don't want to wash myself out. So I was looking for just really anywhere I can do it. And like I said, that's where Iowa popped up. But I wanted to create what I had saw here for so many years. I was like, I feel like I can do it if I can get, the funding, if I can get the help, if I can get the expertise to kind of walk me through those steps. I'll try, do the best I can.
And I think that's great kind of advice, or just looking back, how even though you didn't have anything, like work-wise, you were still every day taking action, taking steps of like, this is what I want to do, and just moving. Even though you didn't end up making the own facility there, it introduced you to all those people and all those other opportunities. So I don't think you can ever lose by just keep moving forward, keep doing things.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It was definitely an experience, man. And, I continued to run into roadblocks, but at that time, then the roadblocks they weren't so detrimental to me anymore, because it was a space that I knew that I wanted to be in. I wanted to operate in. I wanted to be in this industry. I wanted to do what I do. And I just got an opportunity to do that. And I wanted to maximize it. So when I went out there to Iowa and I got into a bad situation with the place that hired me, where they were, taking money from me and doing all these different things like that, like, did it frustrate me? Yes, but if it wouldn't have been for that frustration, that irritability that I had, it wouldn't have pushed me to pursue a different opportunity within that same industry. And I ended up getting that opportunity as an interned there as a performance coach, did an internship. I was grinding in Iowa, bro. Like, I went out there when I left that one job that I was at, because of how they were treating me there. I left, and at the same time, I was still interning at this other location, which was great. And I'm gonna shout him out because he was great, man. The gentleman's name is Joey Glenn, and he is the owner of Engineer Performance. It's in Ankeny, Iowa, and that's where I interned at. And I tell anybody when I talk about my story of getting here, man, Joey Glenn is like he was my savior in all of this madness that I was kind of going through, because he actually interned at EXOS, one of our San Diego locations back in the day, right? So he's from Iowa, world. Ended up interning out there, and then he came back to Iowa to start his own clinic, things of that nature. So I found them online while I was out there in Iowa. Found some apartment when we were in Iowa. Like, I came to Iowa a month before my wife was able to move down because she had to finish up work in Plano. So I moved down by myself. I'm in the apartment, don't have any furniture. I'm sleeping on an air mattress, like just getting out the mud, man. So I'm out there every day trying to make something work until my wife shows up. And in this new apartment, I found in like 1 week and everything. And it was just kind of crazy how he made it happen. So in that process, I get introduced to this gentleman, his webpage, Engineer Performance, and I'm like, this place looks like exactly like where I want to be, this, that, and the other. So I reach out to him on like the contact me page. I say, hey, this is my name, this is my background. Like, I don't have necessarily the educational experience from like sports science or anything like that, exercise science. I don't have any of those degrees, but I'm willing to learn. And I'm like, at this point, like, I'll come sweep the floors. Like, I don't care. I just want to be in the facility and stuff like that. And he reached back out to me. He's like, I don't have any job opportunity for you, but I have an internship that's coming up here soon. If you're interested, I can give you more information. So I jump in the car when I get the email, and I drive over there to his facility, unprompted. Walk in, I want to see it, I want to smell it, I want to feel it, I want to see what everything looks like, because it looked great from what I saw on the webpage. So I walk in there, looking all over the place. And, he comes out. I'm like, oh, yeah, like I think I was emailing you, introducing myself. We talk, really good gentleman, man. And we connect. And he's like, well, if you want the internship, it's yours. Be here on Monday. So I'm like, awesome. Like, I got this internship. I'm not expecting to get it because I'm expecting them to look for somebody with at least the educational backing to do something like that, right? To be a strength coach. I didn't have it. So I'm not expecting for that to happen. Like, but he offers me the internship. I tell my wife I'm super excited. I do that. So in the meantime, I'm working full time. I'm interning in the morning from like 4:30 a.m. to probably about, give or take, 11:30. Then I would come home, take probably like an hour nap, go to my full-time job, work there till about 7 or 8. That full-time job was a job we moved to Iowa for. I moved to Iowa for. Worked there till about 6:30, 7 o'clock or whatever. Then I would drive to Des Moines, Iowa, which was probably 25 minutes from where I lived. And I would run a strength conditioning program for a different facility that they.
Jeez.
So I was doing all 3 of those things for like probably 4 months. I was doing it until I ended up quitting the job that I moved out there for because of the situation I was having with them. When I quit that job, then all I was doing was my internship and working at Orange Theory Fitness. I started working there as a sales associate, supplement income. So I'm just making things work as I'm walking through this internship because I love everything that's happening at Engineer Performance. It's the staff is great. It's just everything that I wanted to be. I was learning so much. My teacher that was walking me through it, their head strength coach, his name was Billy Snyder. He was just he was so patient with me. And I think if it wouldn't have been for the experience that I had at Engineer Performance, I would not have had the confidence to continue to stay in this industry because there's a lot of smart people in what we do. Like these people are so extremely smart and they know human movement and they know the science behind everything. So again, I didn't have any of that experience. So I came into that internship really feeling like insecure by myself and being like, okay, I don't think I even belong in this sphere with you guys. And their head coach, Billy, that was my teacher during that internship. Like, he was just so patient with me. And anybody that knows Billy, man, he is like the most gentle giant ever, man. He's just super patient, super soft spoken, all that kind of stuff like that. So it helped me as I was going through these different things, and we would talk about programming and stuff like that. And I would just throw out these asinine answers because I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. You know what I mean? I'd be like, yeah, I think we should do this. And he's like, you don't want to do that because this, and the other. And I would kind of feel stupid, but it was the way that he would communicate it to me. I never felt stupid. So I never started to kind of go into a shell. So I was able to thrive in it. And once my internship ended, it was unpaid. Once my internship ended, shook hands. Thank you guys for the opportunity. This, that, and the other. And one of their assistant coaches, strength coaches, ended up taking a job at a college out there. And they had an opportunity to open up a part-time position. And they reached out to me. They wanted me to be the part-time strength coach there. So I took that opportunity, was thrilled, got to actually work for them now. So I was doing that for some time, continued to learn so much, build relationships, and all that kind of stuff like that. And it kind of was off and on thing because I can only do part-time work for them at the time. And I feel like my answers are really long-winded, but my story is really detailed and kind of sporadic. So just cut me off.
No, you're good. You're good.
So I'm doing that part-time, working at Orange Theory Fitness as well. So I'm doing both of those things, coaching and at Orange Theory. And something happens at Orange Theory, they make me the interim studio manager, right? Unprompted, just come in from lunch one day, they tell me I'm the studio manager. Great, awesome, make more money, all that kind of stuff. Pretty simple job. I feel like I can do it, this, that, and the other. They basically give me an ultimatum. And they they wanted me to coach there. I didn't want to coach at Orange Theory. If you've ever been to Orange Theory, the coaches they're really good at what they do, but that is not my environment to coach in. It takes a special person to coach at Orange Theory. So I didn't want to do it. So again, I was cool with the manager position and stuff like that. And basically they were You either got to be here like full time, giving all your time, or we got to let you go. We can't have you doing, both, which I didn't understand why, but that's for a whole different topic, I guess. But so I'm like, okay, like making good money right now. I got to make the smart decision for my family, and I leave engineer performance. Did I want to do it, man? It broke my heart. I was doing everything I could not to leave that place. So I ended up having to leave it. I'm giving Orange Theory all that I have. Go on vacation. I come back. Orange Theory fires me.
Wow.
So now I'm jobless. I'm back. I'm in Iowa, and I'm back to square one. I have no job. I no longer work for Engineer Performance. What I interned at, started working there, enjoyed the hell out of it. I no longer work there. They find somebody else to take my position over at that location. But I'm still really, really close with Joey, the owner there, and he was just so gracious to me, and just like, obviously, like if something comes up, they're a smaller clinic, so it wasn't like they could just bring people on. Like it's expensive. So he's like, if something comes up, we would love to have you back, this, that, and the other. So that pushed me back corporate. Now I go corporate. I start working for Wells Fargo out there. I work in the mortgage division there. So I'm doing that I come in through a temp agency working there, get hired on full time, work there for about a year, get promoted, do really good there in that position for some time. COVID hits. So now we're home. And then John Deere Financial reaches out to me to basically do the same exact job that I was doing at Wells Fargo. More money, better company structure, all that kind of stuff like that. John Deere Financial is like the JP Morgan of like Iowa. Like if you get in that John Deere Financial, like it's everything, right? So
nice.
I guess opportunity John Deere Financial. I leave Wells Fargo, go to John Deere Financial, and then I started to kind of, as like a side hustle, kind of make my way back to what Joey was doing with Engineer Performance, and they were expanding locations. So he was opening up a new location, needed somebody to go in and basically just run that till they kind of got everything up and running. So I did that for him, and then that kind of started the transition us back out to Iowa. But I bring that gentleman up, man, because like I said, if it wouldn't have been for Joey just taking a chance on this kid that just wanted to learn and just be in the midst of all that they do, there's no way I'd be where I am right now. It gave me all the experience coaching. I learned how to coach. I just got confident in so many areas of the private sector of sports training that, and I saw so many different avenues of it because of how close he kept me and how they do business there. And he didn't have to do it. So like, I owe Joey everything, man. He really launched me into the position for sure.
And props to you for being willing to work for free. There's a lot of people that don't want to work for free, but they don't see it as a chance to learn, gain experience, and it's huge. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
So how do you end up getting to EXOS from Iowa? You got a good, you're working, setting up that new engineered fitness location. You're still working there at John Deere as well. And then how do you end up at EXOS?
So it's ironic, man. I almost didn't even take the interview to work at EXOS. So I was working from home and with John Deere coming off COVID, I think we're still kind of in that flex spot. Maybe some are all back into the office. I don't know, but COVID changed a lot for the corporate sector, right? Some people like work from home sometimes and then go in the office and all that kind of stuff like that. So it was similar at John Deere Financial. I could stay home if I wanted to. I could go into the office if I wanted to. And most times I went into the office because I was ready to kind of get back into the swing of like, this is the normal, like getting dressed, going to work, being presentable, all that kind of stuff like that. And that week I happened to be working from home, didn't feel like going into the office, and I was doing great at John Deere Financial. Everything was good, man. I bought our first home out there. Like, my son was born. He was in daycare. His daycare was great. Like, everything was just fine. And shout out to John Deere Financial, too, man. They were great to me, man. And my coworkers and my supervisors and everybody. Everybody was great. And what ended up happening was I think I got a email from like Indeed or LinkedIn or something like that about, these job opportunities, something like that. And I saw EXOS name. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, it wasn't the first time I saw a position for EXOS pop up, but sometimes it would be like an intern or something with our nutritionist or something like that. Just things I couldn't do. So I open it up. I see this performance consultant. So I open it up. I'm like, I wonder if that sounds interesting. I open it up. I look at it. And I'm like reading the description. I'm like, it's in Frisco too. I'm like, I feel like I can do all of these things. Like, this doesn't seem very difficult as far as my experience goes, right? I'm like, I feel like I can do this for sure. And I'm like, you know what the hell? So I applied. I'm like, I'm just going to see what happens, whatever. Apply, and they reach back out to me like the next day. It's a recruiter reaches out to me. She's like, got your information. They want to interview you or whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. Get the interview set up and stuff like that. So I told my wife, I'm like, wow, like EXOS wants to interview me and stuff like that. My wife knew, like, I always want to be here. Like, I just adore this place, right? So I'm like, this is crazy. Like, that's really cool. And, you know, we're just taking it one day at a time. You know, I'm like, you know, whatever happens, what happened. Like, I'm not expecting them to offer me anything. Obviously, that will require us to move and all logistics. So I'm like, I'm not even getting there yet, babe. I'm just staying right here. We're good with what I'm doing right now. We're comfortable. Everything's fine. And the day of my interview, I got cold feet. And I called my dad. And I told him, I was like, hey, you know, EXOS wants to interview me. My interview's actually in a couple hours. Like, I don't even know if I should take this interview, to be honest. Like, that's going to require a lot. We're going to have to uproot. We got to sell the house. We got to do all these different things. We're going through all these things. The housing market's crazy. Like, I'm just like, I don't know if this is like a good time. Like, he's like, just take the interview. Like, I never know what happens. I'm like, all right, I'll just take it. Have an interview with my boss, Adam, and the conversation went great. We talked. Everything went smooth. Very personable. I was expecting to be a lot harder as far as, you know, communicating through that interview, but it was really simple. So I had an interview. My wife's like, how'd it go? I'm like, I think it went well, you know, but you know, I don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, just take it at face value. They reached out to me again. They wanted to interview me again. Do another interview. I kind of went through the ringer. I tell my staff now, I'm like, when they ask me like how I got here, I'm like, guys, you guys put me through the ringer to get this position, man. I had a lot of interviews. I had a lot of waiting I had to go through.
I got to vet you.
Yeah, they vetted me good, bro. Like, so I had a bunch of interviews. And yeah, it got to the point where they liked me and they offered me, and sat there with my wife, and I was like, hey, I guess we're moving back to Texas. And she's always worked from home, so that's really why I was so like, okay, let's make this work. Even before COVID, her job was a remote job, so that was a blessing. Perfect. Or honestly, probably wouldn't have came, or I would have done a lot more, like, you know, planning and thinking into like if I could actually make this work. So really, it just came down to me of just like us selling the home and being able to find something out here to come to. So yeah, ended up signing the offer letter, and it was tough, man, because my wife wasn't on board with it at first. Like, when I first told her, like, and she loves Texas, bro. She used to talk about all the time, like, how she'd be willing to move back to Texas and all that kind of stuff like that. But I think it just was it was different. It was scary. It was scary for me, too. I had to keep telling her, I'm like, it's not just you that's scared. Like, I'm terrified, too, because the dynamic switches when you got a family. Like, I have a son, so I can't put us in a position that's going to make us vulnerable to not having a place to live or like all these different things like that. I was like, I'm pretty scared too, but I think God is opening up a door for me to make this happen, and I'm excited and all these different things like that. And you know, I did a lot of praying, and I was like, God, just if this is you throughout this whole process, if you're opening up this door for me, like, make it very plain in the things that you show me. As far as like all the planning that goes into this. I was doing that throughout the whole interview process, and he just did it. Just stuff just started like rolling quickly. Like, we listed our home to sell, and within 23 hours, my house got a cash offer.
Wow,
immediately.
Less than a day.
Quick. Yeah, less than a day, bro. Got a cash offer on my home. So if it were to be cash at that, not just like somebody put an offer in, I got a cash offer that quickly. My home wasn't anything crazy. I didn't have this mansion. I had a small 3-1 home. I mean, it was completely brand new on the inside, which was nice and all that. But as far as like curb appeal goes, like it needed work and all that kind of stuff like that. So like it was just crazy how fast all that stuff kind of fell into place. And they were able to find a builder out here to build our home. Like I told you, we closed on Friday. So, I mean, it was just, things just rolled out like seamlessly once I like just took that leap of faith and said, you know what, like I'm gonna go for this. This is what I've always strived for. The opportunity is right. It feels right. Let's make it happen. Will it be different? Will it be challenging? Yes. Because I'm going into something that I've never done before. But at the same time, my experience, I know it's going to carry me through making all this happen. And sure enough, it did, man. I'm having a ton of success, man. I'm loving it. I love working with these athletes. It just brings me a lot of joy to be able to service them in ways that they need to be serviced, and building those relationships with them. And just, I'm a people person, man. So I love to help people. That's what gets me out the bed, man, is being able to help people. So it's a joy to be able to do it. My journey is crazy, as you heard me talk for an hour and a half, man. Like my journey was wild to get here, but all of it was worth it. And it definitely is what fuels me and gave me the lessons I need to continue to do what I do here.
It's great to see you in a situation you really enjoy, and just reflecting on all that hard work and what you've had to go through to get to that point. And I know there's still work to do every day, but it's just, it's great to see what you're doing now. Yeah,
for sure, man. I appreciate that.
I want to touch on another thing. You said you have a son now. So how much did that change your life or impact it?
It changed everything, bro. It is single-handedly the best moment of my life. It was just, it's incredible to go through that experience with your wife and kind of see the sacrifice that they go through, physically, emotionally, mentally, on behalf of the child, man. And really for me too, because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for me, there would be no child. So they're doing that. They're sacrificing so much for their love for you, and wanting to create another human that's half you, half them, you know? So it's humbling. It's a great and beautiful experience. It was scary. And, you know, people ask all the time, you know, when did you know you were ready? I never knew I was ready. And I used to hear people say that all the time, but it is true, man. Like I tell people that ask me that question, I'm like, you'll never be ready. You will never be ready for a child, because you're going into a territory that you can't be prepared for. Like there's no training manual on how to have a kid, how to take care of a life. There's no training manual out there for it. You can read books about it, about people's experiences, best practices. You can do all that kind of stuff like that. But it does not compare to actually holding your child and saying, I'm responsible for everything that has to do with you. So for me, you know, it just was one of those deals where I got to the point where I said, hey, I'm ready to have a family, and I'm willing to walk through that darkness of not knowing, and I'll do it with my best friend, and we'll make it work, just like we always make everything else work. And all the parents out there, your parents, my parents, everybody's parents, we all have the same story. We made it work. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I have confidence in that. So I knew we would find a way, and we sure did, man. It was cool to hold my child for the first time. I was interested to see how it would be, because like up to that point, like I never wanted to like hold other people's kids and stuff like that. I was like weird about that. I'm like, I don't want to hold them, like, and I love kids, don't get me wrong, but I was just like especially like a newborn, I'm like, I don't want to hold this newborn. I feel like if it cries, the mom is going to look like me, like I did something to it, like all these different things like that. Like I always not want to do that.
Did accidentally drop it?
Yeah, exactly. Or I dropped the kid, leave, bro. Like that, just shoot me. Like that happens. Like, yeah, man, I have my son Micah, and he's great, man. He is a joy to be around. He has so much personality that I don't know where he got it from, because I feel like I got personality, but like his is like extreme, bro. I feel like he's a character, bro. But yeah, he's just a joy, man. He's an easy baby. He was really easy for us. A lot of that came from my wife is very thorough and very detailed. So like she does a lot of research on like, best practices on like taking care of this and breastfeeding and this and that. So she was like as prepared as she could be.
Awesome.
Which helped me because I'm one of those people that just like, hey, we just gonna like crash through the walls and just like figure out a way to make it happen. But she prepared us well, and it helped him as he was really young and getting into a routine and all that kind of stuff like that. And now it's kind of a well-oiled machine, but we're to the point now, man, where he's 2. He turned 2 last August, and we're at that age now where I'm not gonna call it terrible twos because I don't really like that word, but we're at that age now where he's starting to come more into his own. He wants to do what he wants to do. More hard-headed, like all those different things like that. So it's just different challenges at different stages of the process, right? Versus, you're tired, you're not getting any sleep because you got this newborn, and it's, sending them off to daycare for the first time. That's tough. And then it's taking on a daycare expense. Don't get me started on daycare. Daycare is extremely expensive. If there's anything that would deter people from having kids, it's daycare. Daycare is very expensive. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, gosh.
When I was in Iowa, my daycare expense was more than my mortgage.
Wow.
So that'll put you in perspective for you. Now,
jeez.
Shout out to all the daycare providers. You guys are awesome because you guys have a very hard job, but daycare is expensive.
But you pay for it.
Yeah, you do pay for it. But yeah, man, so it's the different stages that you go through with your kids, and it's all a joy to watch and see how smart they are. I swear my kid is smarter than I could ever have imagined. He is so smart. I know every parent says that, but my kid is so smart. It's kind of scary sometimes. It's fun, man. I love being a father, man. I really do. It's brought so much more purpose to my life, to what I do. And that's it, man. Being a dad is cool, bro. It really is. Like,
well, congrats. I'm sure that the 2-year-old phase is going to fly by too. So he'll be 10 before you know it.
Man, don't even scare me like that.
All right, Brandon. Well, to wrap it up, I want to ask you about what you like best about being at EXOS right now and your job there.
Yeah. Probably what I like most, man, is being able to create the relationships that I get to create on a daily basis, man. I meet so many people from so many different walks of life on a daily basis. It's kind of mind-blowing. The numbers I have in my phone now, the relationships I get to build, the conversations I get to have, and it's put me in the place to where I get to make impact in areas that I've always wanted to make impact, right? I know sports. I know at the back of my hand, man. I know what these athletes are going through. Some more than others, right? My pro guys, I don't understand some of those dynamics, but at the end of the day, athlete is athlete for the most part. When you get to a certain level, at least to a certain degree, you can understand kind of the pain points and things like that they go through. And it puts me in a position to where I get to share my experiences like I'm doing right now on this podcast, man. I get to talk about where I went wrong. I get to talk about my journey and give people hope. I get to do a lot of those different things, man. So, sorry, I heard a really weird noise out there. It scared me. But it's just really enjoyable, bro, to be able to impact people in that way. And it just always continues to feed me. When I leave, man, I don't feel like I've been working. I feel like I've just been building relationships with people. Because at the end of the day, that's what life comes down to, man. Life is about relationships. It's about being good to people. It's about people being good back to you. It's about you leaving an impact on people. And that is what I strive to do, man, each and every day when I come in here. So this position gives me an opportunity to touch so many lives, to have players like my combine guys, right? I'm a conduit to have them achieve their lifelong dream, man, and just watch the joy that they have in going through this process and making that dream a reality. Or the guy that walks in that just banged up his knee and he's second guessing what his future looks like. And my PT staff can get him up to speed as soon as possible with the best care in the whole world. I swear we have the best PTs in the world, and they can get him back up to speed. And then we see him get a new contract, and we all can celebrate that. Like, man, look at what we did, but more so look at what this person came in and did for themselves, and with the help of us and the coaches that I come across, man. I got great coaches on my staff, man. I'm just surrounded by so many talented and gifted people that are really good people too. Not just they're super smart and, I don't have a personal relationship with them, man. Like, these are people that I trust. These are people that have similar backgrounds to me. These are people that are just special to me, man. This is a special company. It just is. We touch so many lives, man, from corporate all the way down to team affiliates, bro. Like, we touch so many different sectors and we impact so many people, and I just couldn't be more proud to represent this organization. It's a blast, man. It really is.
That really resonates with me, because that was one of the main reasons I started this podcast. Is throughout my life, I've met so many people, and each person has their own story, their own values, their own perspective. And then I love hearing all of them. So I want to document it, and I'm glad that I got your story on the pod, and I can't wait to hear what comes next and what you continue to do or whatever you choose to do. So you're welcome on the podcast anytime, Brandon, and thank you so much for your time. Do you have any final thoughts?
Nah, man, I appreciate you having me, man. I always want to do something like this to kind of share my story. And like I said, I try not to keep it so long-winded, man, but there's a lot of dynamics in my story, but I think there's a lot of stuff that people can kind of grasp from my experiences and what I learned and stuff like that. So I appreciate that you reached out to me, man, and gave me an opportunity to articulate everything that has gone on in my life, man, and what I've overcome and what I've learned and stuff like that, man. A podcast is a beautiful thing, man. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep impacting people with the stories that you bring on here, and the transparency that you create by just letting people talk, man. So I'm really grateful, man, and I continue to share and support and do all that kind of stuff like that, man. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandon. And for any of the listeners, if you got your own kids that are young, or whether they're athletes or not, please share this episode so they can hear Brandon's story as well. Y'all have a great one.
Cool. See ya. Appreciate it, man.